Chapter 269. No matter how tenacious Hollow was, no one thought that he would be able to turn the tables in such a desperate situation. But just as Lin Jun was about to strike, Hollow roared at the top of his lungs. "Lin Jun, you forced me to do this. I can't control myself anymore. I can't lose." The surrounding audience saw a shocking scene. A faint blue light flashed between Hollow's eyebrows, and then everything changed. Hollow's body emitted a faint starlight, and a vigorous aura grew crazily. Lin Jun's flying dagger was actually forced back. His legs were already broken. Although he couldn't stand up, his entire body was floating. Star Realm. This is the power of the Star Realm. No one knew who said this, but everyone was dumbfounded. They had seen people break through in the middle of a battle, but what kind of situation was this? Hollow was in a desperate situation. His legs were broken, his eyes were blind, and his life was hanging by a thread. How could he break through? And this wasn't a normal breakthrough. It wasn't the kind that could be done step by step. It was as if there was a hidden power in his body that exploded in an instant and sent him to the Star Realm. Among the spectators, Chun Fong Lai, Gong Sun Du, and the other Star Realm experts all exclaimed in disbelief. The Star Realm couldn't be entered like this. This went against common sense. It can't be. God, Hollow actually broke through it this time. It's over, it's over. Lin Jun is definitely finished this time. He was about to die, but he actually broke through to the Star Realm. How is this possible? He's blind and his legs are broken. Can he defeat Lin Jun just because he broke through to the Star Realm? Lin Jun also defeated a Star Realm expert in Paris. What do you know? Lin Jun had the help of that strange dog in Paris. Moreover, Hollow is one of the top fighters among the gods of war. Even if his legs are broken and his eyes are blind, Lin Jun is still heavily injured. This is definitely going to be a reversal. Didn't you see that Lin Jun can't even stab forward? Everyone looked at the screen. Sure enough, the broken jade spear in Lin Jun's hand was trembling as Hollow slowly pushed it away from his throat. Ha! Seeing that his spear could no longer stab forward, Lin Jun could only quickly withdraw his spear. At the same time, he retrieved the glorious seven-star saber that had been pushed away by the star power. Blood was still dripping from his body. Lin Jun's face was pale, and his body was swaying. The thing he was most worried about had finally happened. In the end, Hollow was still controlled by the Overmind. Lin Jun originally thought that Hollow's spiritual power had already solidified and shouldn't be controlled by the Overmind. As long as he could get past Hollow, no matter if it was Doak or Ayer who advanced in the end, he should still be able to fight. However, he was wrong. The solidification of spiritual power didn't mean that the quality of the spiritual power had improved. It still couldn't stop the Overmind's invasion. Perhaps it couldn't be stopped for long. During the fierce battle, the Overmind finally invaded Hollow's soul. Since this happened to Hollow, Lin Jun's chances of winning were infinitely close to zero. Hollow floated up. That was the flying technique that only Star Realm experts could use. Even a Spirit Reader Master needed a carrier to fly, but a Star Realm expert didn't need one. Hollow's expression changed a few times. Then, he actually laughed, ha ha. So the difference between a Star Realm expert and a quasi-Star Realm expert is so big. Lin Jun. Oh, Lin Jun, my blindness and broken legs are only temporary. Even so, you're still not my match. As he spoke, Hollow waved his hand, and his war hammer returned to his hand. He didn't even take back his shield because he didn't need that much defense anymore. Lin Jun let out a long breath. His footsteps were a bit light, and his vision was a bit blurry. That was the sign of excessive blood loss. However, he still had to persevere. Even if he died in the virtual arena, he had to persevere. Even if his opponent was a Star Realm expert, he wouldn't admit defeat. Stepping on the clouds, Lin Jun took advantage of Hollow's blindness and suddenly launched a sneak attack from the side. The broken jade spear once again pierced his temple. Lin Jun had just gotten close when Hollow suddenly used a gravity field. This time, the gravity field was so strong that it instantly suppressed Lin Jun's speed to the speed of a snail. Die for me. Although Hollow couldn't see, Lin Jun's speed was so slow that he could still capture Lin Jun's position. With a swing of his hand, he smashed his hammer. This hammer wasn't fast, but it was powerful. Lin Jun resisted the gravity and barely raised his spear to block. His body was instantly sent flying, and he spat out another mouthful of blood in the air. Without waiting for Lin Jun to react, Olive had already flown over, and the war hammer in his hand smashed down again. Lin Jun once again raised his spear to block, but the result was that he was sent flying again. No, the gravity field is completely suppressing me. I have to break it. Lin Jun gathered what little strength he had left and used lightning kill again. The power of lightning was still surging, but this time, Olive's gravity field only shook a few times and didn't collapse like Lin Jun expected. Ha ha! Lin Jun, you still want to use the same trick in front of me? Unfortunately, I am already a Star Realm expert. This is a gravity field that is 40 times stronger than normal. Your trick is useless. When Olive rushed over again, Lin Jun teleported. Although he couldn't break the gravity field, his lightning kill still had some effect. It caused the gravity field to pause for a moment, allowing him to teleport. After teleporting 10 meters away, when his figure disappeared, Olive also disappeared. Star teleportation. This was an essential skill of a Star Realm expert. It allowed Olive to teleport as well. He instantly appeared behind Lin Jun and smashed his hammer again. The gravity field descended again. Although Olive's speed wasn't fast, Lin Jun's speed was even slower. He couldn't dodge Olive's attack at all. He took another heavy blow and was sent flying into a corner. Lin Jun was blasted to the ground, and large mouthfuls of blood flowed from the corners of his mouth. Ha ha! Lin Jun, only now do I know that Star Realm cultivators have such power. With just your Star Force, you have nowhere to hide in this small space. I don't need to use my eyes to know where you are. My Star Force is also a level higher than your Dantian Chi. As long as my gravitational field is still here, you won't be able to use your speed advantage, and you won't be able to break through my gravitational field. You've lost this battle. Olive didn't need to use his legs to walk. He floated in the air, occasionally moving forward and backward and constantly teleporting. He already had victory in his hands. He wanted to enjoy the feeling of teasing Lin Jun. Seeing that Lin Jun was almost powerless to stand up, everyone fell into despair. This time, there was really no hope. If he couldn't break Olive's gravity field, Lin Jun couldn't use his speed advantage. Teleporting was useless. Flying was useless. His strength was suppressed, and he was heavily injured. Lin Jun didn't have any chance. The Chinese audience was silent. Everyone's eyes were filled with tears. They wanted to wait for the miraculous reward, but they also wanted this torture to end quickly. Lin Jun was already covered in blood. Although it was a virtual arena, the pain was real. On the other hand, the Russians were cheering. Their contestant was finally going to win. There was nothing that could stop Kolov's victory. He was already one of the favorites to win the championship, and he had even entered the Star Realm. No one could compete with him. The door to Lin Jun's house was pulled open with a bang. Lin Lie and Li Qin, who were watching the live broadcast with their hearts throbbing, saw two super beauties running in like the wind. They had seen Ning before, but behind her, who was that peerless beauty dressed in a white divine priest robe with golden edges? It was divine sex Saintess Su Mingwe. Originally, Lin Lie and Li Qin were having a headache over Lin Jun's two girlfriends. They were both so good. How could they choose one? But why did the two of them come together? And Ning ran and said to Lin Jun and Li Qin, "Uncle, Auntie, this is your. We're going to see Lin Jun. We'll talk after we're done." "Uncle, Auntie, I'll go up first." Su Mingwe still had tears in her eyes. She never thought that she would meet Lin Jun's parents in such a sorry state. But this was the first time she lost her composure. Seeing Ning holding Su Mingwe's hand and running up, Li Qin said to Lin Lie after a while, "Won't they fight?" "Probably not. Looking at them, they don't seem to want to fight." Lin Lie replied, uncertainly. Li Qin sighed. "How can our son be so capable to make these two girls treat him so well?" Lin Lie nodded. "It should be a genetic problem. My son is like me in this aspect. He's naturally liked by girls." "What did you say?" Li Qin raised her eyebrows. "Who else likes you? You have to make it clear to me today." Lin Lie was speechless. Asterisk, 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 and Ning and Su Mingyue rushed into Lin Jun's room like the wind. They saw Lin Jun sitting on a chair with a virtual reality helmet on. His body was still twitching uncontrollably. This time things are a little out of our expectations. Halef has advanced to the Star Realm. Lin Jun is in danger in the arena. He needs to recover urgently. It's up to you now. Yes, Sister Ning, don't worry. Your water elemental energy is mild. Help heal him from the side. I'll transfer my light energy to him. Su Mingyue ran to Lin Jun. Seeing Lin Jun's frown and pained expression, she couldn't help but tear up. But she also knew that this was an urgent matter. She wiped the corners of her eyes hard, then reached out a pair of white hands and gently pressed on Lin Jun's wound and dantian. At this moment, Su Mingyue's body emitted a soft light. The power of charged particles and light particles appeared at the same time and immediately began to rapidly heal Lin Jun's injuries. And Ning also gently enveloped Lin Jun with her water elemental energy, further increasing the speed of his recovery. Chapter 270. At this moment, Su Mingyue and Ning didn't know about Lin Jun's situation in the arena. They didn't have the time to look, and all their strength was used to treat Lin Jun. The situation in the virtual environment would also be affected by the external situation, but because of the differences between individuals, it would basically not be like this. If an outsider rashly treated Lin Jun, it would definitely affect his situation in the arena. The biggest possibility was that not only would he not recover, but his injuries would also worsen. His brain waves would become chaotic, and he might even go berserk. Only Su Mingyue wouldn't have this problem. Her light energy and Lin Jun's energy came from the same source, and there was no difference. It would only bring benefits and not harm. Lin Jun's injuries were recovering at a speed visible to the naked eye, but this speed of recovery wasn't enough for him to fully recover in the virtual space. After all, his injuries weren't light, and it wasn't something that could be healed overnight. Su Mingyue also didn't think about this problem. She flew thousands of miles here, hoping to do something to make Lin Jun feel better. It was worth it for her to come here. Lin Jun was in the arena and immediately sensed Su Mingyue's light energy. It's you, she came to treat me. She should be by my side. And Ning, she's here too. Her water elemental energy is also healing my injuries. Lin Jun's lips curled into a smile, and he really did feel that his body had recovered some strength. Although this wasn't enough to determine the outcome of the battle, he was still very happy. The path of pursuing the peak wasn't necessarily lonely. And Ning and Yu were his most precious treasures, and Lin Jun wanted to bring them along with him. I'll use the last of my strength and fight it out with Halef. Lin Jun looked at Halef, who was still ridiculing him and familiarizing himself with the power of the Star Realm, and prepared to go all out. He had already tried his best, but sometimes man proposes and God disposes. He hadn't expected Halef to advance to the Star Realm during the battle. Losing now didn't mean that he would lose in the future. Just as Lin Jun was about to take action, he suddenly felt the radiant energy in his body resonating with Yuer's radiant energy. When the charged particles met, the radiant energy in Lin Jun's body suddenly became active. Lin Jun saw that within the radiant energy, there was a type of radiant energy that was much larger than the charged particles flickering. That was Yuer's power. These are light molecules. This is the embodiment of the second power of light. Yuer isn't like me. She's cultivated too many elemental energies. She specializes in the power of light. Like a Ning, she's already grasped the second element, and this is exactly what I lack. I wonder if I can borrow Yuer's power to awaken the light molecules in my body and complete the resonance with me. As soon as this thought appeared, it immediately grew uncontrollably in Lin Jun's mind. The reason why his lightning kill couldn't break through Halef's gravity field was because it didn't have enough power. And the reason why it didn't have enough power was because his lightning power was too strong. It contained lightning ions and lightning photons, and the light energy was too weak. It only had charged particles. Although the cold energy caused them to clash, most of the power was still wasted. If he could make the light energy and lightning energy reach a balance, the power of lightning kill would definitely double. Thinking of this, Lin Jun immediately pretended to be in pain. His body seemed to be unable to move, but he still tried to get up. The dark star in his body immediately began to accept Yuer's light molecules, trying to make the light molecules in the dark star reach a resonance. Although Holofh couldn't see, the senses of the star realm were extremely sensitive. He could hear Lin Jun try and struggle, then get up and fall. Huh, Lin Jun. Lin Jun, you finally have a day like this. Without spiritual power, your body is seriously injured. You are now a dog waiting to be slaughtered by me. You will die however I want you to. Holoph's body slowly floated forward, gradually approaching Lin Jun. At this moment, he had gradually familiarized himself with the power of the star realm and was ready to make a move on Lin Jun. How did you deal with me just now? According to the words of you Chinese, this is called the Wheel of Fortune. Now, it has been turned around. Holoph's face had 2 bloody holes, looking incomparably sinister. Speaking until here, he fiercely clenched his teeth. Lin Jun, you son of a bitch. I will return everything you did to me, bit by bit, unless you immediately commit suicide. But then you will be despised by your country's people. You are a deserter, a coward, a clown who doesn't dare to fight. The dark star in Lin Jun's body quickly rotated. The light particles began to move under the cover of the charged particles and quickly approached Yuer's power and then fused together. He felt that this time, it would not be as strenuous as before. With Yuer's power as a guide, the light particles would quickly resonate. He only needed a bit of time. Holoph, you big bear, I really want to kill you. Lin Jun purposely said ruthless words without any threat. As expected, it made Holoph laugh proudly. Unfortunately, you won't have that chance. Lin Jun, I will break your legs right now and return the pain you gave me 10 times, 100 times to you. The gravity field crashed down. Lin Jun could not stand up at all. Holoph waved the war hammer in his hand and fiercely smashed down on Lin Jun's left leg. Gotcha! One leg was broken just like that. Lin Jun let out a muffled groan, but did not make any sound. Seeing this scene, the Chinese audience's eyes were wet. Originally, there were a few Lin haters who were prepared to mock Lin Jun when he committed suicide. But seeing this, they all fell silent. Perhaps they should not mock Lin Jun anymore. This is definitely a strong man, China's strongest war god. Not hearing Lin Jun's screams, Holoph was very dissatisfied. The reason why he did not immediately kill Lin Jun was because he wanted to experience the thrill of killing. But this brat was really a tough nut to crack. He was not even willing to make sound. Moreover, he could not see, so the thrill of killing was much less. I don't believe that your bones can be that tough. Lin Jun, I will cripple your other leg next. Lin Jun did not bother with Holoph. He could see his light particles and Yuer's light particles fusing together. Moreover, they started to quickly rotate in the dark star, about to resonate. Seeing Holoph's war hammer coming down again, Lin Jun did not even frown. He allowed Holoph to break his other leg. The sound of bones breaking could be heard, and blood flowed all over the ground. Almost everyone was crying. Many people were shaking their heads violently. Don't fight anymore. Don't fight anymore. Lin Jun, just admit defeat. We won't blame you. Lin Jun, you are good. This is enough. You are the strongest war god in our hearts. The people's shouts reached Holoph's ears. Holoph revealed a sinister smile. Are you still holding on? Fine, I will dig out your eyes now. Let's see how long you can hold on. Under the suppression of the gravity field, he believed that Lin Jun had no strength to fight back. He took out Lin Jun's 2 7-star swords and floated them in front of Lin Jun. When the higher-ups of Huaxia saw this scene, several leaders sighed. What a pity. When Chen Fenlai saw this, he shook his head slightly. China is really regretful this time. Lin Jun, I thought that if you could win glory for China, I would not hold it against you for killing Yu Jinhua. But it seems that it is not possible. When Gong Sun Du saw this, he closed his eyes. Yuer, it seems that I should bring you back. No one thought that a miracle would happen. Everyone was waiting for the end of the battle. Only Lin Jun was not affected at all. In the dark star, The two light particles finally merged together. Charged particles and light particles. The two elements formed an even stronger light energy. They resonated. Great. It is time to fight back. At this moment, Halaf lifted Lin Jun up. He grabbed Lin Jun's collar with one hand and brought him in front of him. The other hand held a sword. Lin Jun, which how do you think I should dig out first? The people in front of the big screen covered their eyes. They did not want to see this bloody scene. Lin Jun's lips curled into a cold smile. You won't have the chance. What did you say? How dare you be so stubborn? Before Halaf finished his words, Lin Jun suddenly used the gravitational force on Halaf's head again. He tilted his head back and viciously slammed it into Halaf. Both of them did not have helmets. But Halaf was blind and the injury on his face was worse. After being slammed by Lin Jun, blood spurted out from his nose. He cried out in pain and let go of Lin Jun's hand involuntarily. The gravitational force also loosened a little. Now, Lin Jun tried to raise his hand. Countless golden rays shrouded over. Halaf felt the danger and instinctively raised his hand to block. Lin Jun made use of the little bit of strength he had recovered to bring out the broken jade spear. The dark star spun, and the power of lightning surged within his body. Together with the cold air, they quickly formed an energy ball that covered the spear. I said it's useless. This move of yours is useless against the Star Realm's gravitational force field. Get down, 40x gravitational force field. At this moment, time in the virtual arena seemed to have slowed down. Everyone could remember this unforgettable scene. Lin Jun's spear pierced out and went straight for Halaf's chest. He roared, I've never been a man who breaks his promises. My fellow Waxians, you can start celebrating now. The energy beam tore the space apart, and the photoelectric power that had reached a balance erupted with infinite power at this moment. The gravity field was once again like the mirror-like space, turning into fragments on the ground. The gravitational force field disappeared. Lin Jun's lightning wings appeared behind him. He thrust the spear forward and stabbed it into Halaf's chest along with the energy beam. The lightning wings flapped. Boom! The two people rushed to the edge of the arena in the blink of an eye and crashed into the pillar. The spear pierced more than half a meter into Halaf's body and nailed him to the pillar. This is impossible. Halaf spat out large mouthfuls of blood. He couldn't believe that he, a Star Realm expert, would be defeated by Lin Jun. Nothing is impossible. If I can kill you once, I can kill you twice. Halaf, get eliminated. Lin Jun grabbed the spear and spun it in the air at high speed. The radiant 7-star blade in his hand slashed out like lightning. Pooh! Lin Jun's body landed on the ground. After a while, blood spurted out from Halaf's throat and his head fell down. Only half of his head was still nailed to the corner of the arena by the spear. The whole world was silent for 10 seconds. Then, China erupted into loud cheers. Chapter 271. Lin Jun stared at Halaf's body and heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that his body had turned into white light and disappeared. The system notification sounded. The second stage competition has ended. Congratulations to Huaxia's Azure Sky Dojo War God Lin Jun for advancing to the finals. The finals will begin in an hour. At this time, the other competition had also ended. America's War God Doak had defeated the European Union's War God Ire and advanced to the finals. Lin Jun's final match would be against Doak, while Halaf would be against Ire. When the system announced that Lin Jun had won, the entire country of Huaxia was celebrating. Advancing to the finals meant that he would at least be the runner-up. He would at least be ranked second in the World War God Alliance. At this time, no one thought that the champion would fall to someone else. Lin Jun could even defeat Halaf, who had advanced to the Star Realm. What was Doak to him? Doak wasn't even a match for Halaf, who was at the Star Realm. How could he fight against Lin Jun? Firecrackers were set off in the streets of Huaxia's 6 major base cities. It was bustling as if it was Chinese New Year. Every family prepared food and drinks, and even made dumplings to celebrate this great victory. The audience at the War God Arena had also become a sea of excitement. Lin Jun looked around and then slowly took off his virtual reality headset. When he opened his eyes, Su Mingyue and Ning were still trying their best to heal Lin Jun. Their beautiful faces were already covered in sweat. Ning, you air. Lin Jun's voice was slightly hoarse. Su Mingyue and Ning were stunned for a moment and then stopped. Lin Jun, you won? Ning asked. I won. I resonated with the elemental power of the light molecules and finally defeated Holofs. Ning and Su Mingyue were overjoyed. They both wanted to throw themselves into Lin Jun's arms, but when they saw the people around them, they stopped at the same time. Lin Jun stood up and hugged his two beloved girls. I want to thank the both of you. Without your hard work, we wouldn't have won this battle. Two blushing faces pressed against Lin Jun's chest at the same time. After looking at each other, Su Mingyue shyly buried her face in Lin Jun's chest, not daring to look at Ning. Ning also felt very embarrassed, but she was still slightly better than Su Mingyue. She reached out and pinched Lin Jun's waist, then buried her face in Lin Jun's chest. He fought so hard and defeated such a strong opponent. Just let him be this time. I definitely won't allow it next time. Both girls thought so. The three of them hugged each other. The atmosphere in the room was warm and quiet. Lin Jun closed his eyes slightly, enjoying this rare moment. Although he couldn't control himself at first, he thought it through. This was a rare opportunity. He had to let the two girls learn to accept each other. He would shamelessly do it this time for the sake of building a foundation for the future. After a few minutes, Su Mingyue finally couldn't stand the stuffiness. She raised her head from Lin Jun's chest. Can you stop hugging me? Ning also pushed Lin Jun away and sat down. Lin Jun smiled and sat down as well. He stretched his body and felt the activity of the light molecules in his body. He felt that his body was gradually recovering its happiness. Lin Jun, are you confident in the next battle? Ning asked. There definitely won't be any problems. This time, Lin Jun's answer was resolute. Dok's ultimate move was the repulsive field. It was similar to Holof's gravitational field. However, it couldn't cause any trouble for Lin Jun now. Moreover, Lin Jun could use his spiritual power against Dok. You can't be too careless. You have to be more careful towards the end. Ning was still trying to persuade him. Lin Jun also nodded slightly in agreement. He definitely wouldn't let the championship slip away. However, at that moment, the cheers of his parents came from downstairs. Soon, Lin Lie and Li Qin ran up and opened the door. Li Qin said, Son, that American Dok admitted defeat. China is the champion. You won the championship for our country. Really? Lin Jun's eyes lit up. Although he knew that Dok was definitely not his match, he didn't expect his opponent to admit defeat. Of course it's true. Hurry up and watch the live broadcast. Lin Jun hurriedly turned on his computer. Dok's speech was being broadcasted live. The war god from America said with a distressed expression, First, I would like to apologize to the citizens of America. I hope you can understand that Dok isn't someone who is afraid of battles. However, I don't want to fight a battle without any hope. The power of my repulsive field isn't even comparable to Holof's gravitational field. I don't have any chance of winning this battle. No one wants to see me get flattened by Lin Jun and then kicked out of the stage. I believe that everyone in the world has to admit this. When Lin Jun broke through Holof's gravitational field with one shot, he was no longer an ordinary war god. In my opinion, Lin Jun's strength is at the top of the war gods. No other war gods can be compared to him, even those who are at the star realm. He is the number one person below the star realm. After saying that Lin Jun was the number one person below the star realm, Dok took the initiative to forfeit. He volunteered to be the runner-up. He was very satisfied with being the runner-up. Lin Jun was also a bit indifferent. He had changed a lot of things after his rebirth, but some things were still going according to the original plan. For example, Dok was the runner-up in his previous life, and he was still the runner-up now. The citizens of America understood and supported Dok's decision. It wasn't a shameful thing. Meaningless battles weren't advocated. After Lin Jun won the championship, another piece of news came. Holof gave up on the third or fourth place competition and left home. No one knew where he went. This way, air from the European Union automatically got third place, and Russia got fourth place. Lin Jun was secretly on guard. Holof was no longer Holof. He was now a puppet controlled by an extraterrestrial civilization. Now that he had left his home, he might have gone to his master's place. As for Holliff coming to seek revenge, Lin Jun didn't think it would happen. After losing in the arena, even if Holliff wanted revenge, he would have to be 100% confident. Otherwise, losing in the real world wasn't like losing in the arena. If you lost, you wouldn't have a chance to start over. Lin Jun also didn't think that his current strength could be compared to a Star Realm expert. There were too many unexpected factors in Old John's battle, and Holliff was also a special case. When he broke through to the Star Realm, he lost his sight and his legs were broken. His battle strength was greatly reduced. Moreover, Holliff's speed was also very obvious. Without the gravitational field, he couldn't keep up with Lin Jun at all. The other Star Realm experts were different. Their mental strength, speed, strength, and unique battle skills were endless. Each one was harder to deal with than the last. Lin Jun, who had been reborn, knew this very well. However, Lin Jun felt that he deserved the title of #1 under the Star Realm. At least on Earth, Lin Jun didn't think that any War God or Star Realm experts could pose a threat to him. The War God arena ended, and all the countries' rankings were released. First place was China, second place was America, third place was Europe, fourth place was Russia, fifth place was African Union, sixth place was India, and seventh place was Brazil. This time, the dust had finally settled. The entire Huaxia was celebrating. Even the higher-ups in the capital-based city expressed that they would come over to congratulate Lin Jun and give her a reward. They also promised in front of the entire nation that Lin Jun could make a request, as long as it did not violate national principles or endanger national security. The country would agree to it. As for this request, Lin Jun had already thought about it. He would mention it when the people came. This was part of his plan after his rebirth. Everyone in Lin Jun's house was also very happy. Li Qin even said, "Today is a happy day. I want to reward my son. Old man, you cook, I'll make dumplings for my son." Lin Lia happily agreed and went to prepare. Li Qin looked at Ning and Su Mingwe. The more she looked at them, the more she felt that these two girls were too beautiful and lovable. Although she didn't know which one of them would become her daughter-in-law in the future, it didn't stop her from liking them. "Xiao Ning, you don't leave. Eat at Annie's house today, okay?" Su Mingwe came all the way here and, of course, she didn't want to leave immediately. And Ning, although her house was in Bing City, she didn't want to leave the atmosphere here. She immediately nodded and said, "Then I will help Annie make dumplings." "Okay, then let's cook together." Annie was not a martial artist in the past and is used to cooking. But you're a martial artist and the daughter of a rich family. It's not easy for you to cook. And Ning was a little embarrassed. In fact, her dumplings making skills were also very average. Su Mingwe slightly raised her head and said embarrassedly, "I can also help. When I have time, I will secretly practice cooking." "Oh, okay. For Lin Jun to be able to meet the two of you is really his good fortune. Let's go. The three of us will cook together." Li Qin was very happy. She was thinking if she should go out to buy some seasonings. If she brought these two girls out, the neighbors would be jealous. Although there weren't many neighbors around, they could walk further away. Buying things was not the goal. The main goal was to walk out. Seeing his mother bring his two girlfriends out, Lin Jun was also in a good mood. However, he knew that this happiness was not easy to come by. Since he was here, he must protect it well. The people from the country could not come over today. Lin Jun logged into the internet in front of his computer. He didn't forget that if he participated in the God of War arena and won the championship, there would be many generous prizes. He just didn't know if there would be a lottery. Yuer had always been very lucky when it came to lottery. He decided to let her stay just now. He logged into his account on the computer and immediately received a lot of messages. Many people added Lin Jun as a friend, but Lin Jun did not reply. His goal was on the prizes. Chapter 272. The new book month was finally over. Last month, Hey2 had updated 500,000 words. This number of words was definitely worth the monthly votes and rewards. Of course, the price behind this update was not small. Because of this, Hey2 stayed in the office for 27 days. He did not go home for 27 days, because writing at home would affect his family's rest and would not be peaceful. This was almost like a hellish training. A month had passed, and the number of readers increased. From the beginning until now, this book had naturally attracted a lot of negative comments. It attracted countless hateful comments every day, and they were all referring to Devour. Hey2 had explained that the system of Devour was set by the editor. It was just a system, but the story was a completely different story. If you think I'm plagiarizing, you can report me and see if anyone cares about you. Fortunately, Hey2 still had supporters. Every time he saw supporters and trolls fighting, Hey2 was very happy. You are my motivation. Thank you for accompanying me. It was a new month, and the plan was like this. Every day, there would be at least 2 chapters. Every month, there would be 100 votes. This was something that everyone could see clearly. For example, this month, there were 3,400 votes. That would mean that there would be a total of 34 chapters. As long as the votes were there, it would take effect. In this way, Hey2 counted that he would update about 3 chapters a day. Then, there were rewards. Rewards were 20,000. If Piao Hong was 50,000, he would add 3 chapters. If Piao Hong was 100,000, he would add 6 chapters. After all, it was impossible to be in good condition every day. Currently, Hey2 owed 10 chapters. 1 chapter each for the 6 of them. 3 Season Rise Can Resist, Art Pavilion, Book Pavilion, Little Pocket, Against the Wind, Purple Oriole, Ever Summer. Then, 4 chapters. He wanted to pay off these debts as soon as possible. It probably would not take long. Therefore, even if he did not receive a single monthly vote or a single reward, Hey2 would still update 70 chapters. But was that possible? It was probably still possible to update 400,000 words. It was still far more than most authors. This was under the condition that there were no accidents, such as the sudden appearance of Tycoon. That was all. Hey2 was not a robot. He also wanted to go home. Finally, remember to follow Hey2's WeChat public account. Search for Hey2 emitting green smoke, and you'll find it. In a few days, someone will help me operate it. I will update the chapters there. You can't see them here. Chapter 273. Seeing this message, Lin Jun was overjoyed. These 2 days of fighting on the War God Arena made him almost forget about this matter. The sudden 1 trillion was indeed a huge surprise. Lin Jun never complained about having too much money. With more money, he could do more things. Although 1 trillion was already an astronomical figure, Lin Jun also had his own plans. Without this 1 trillion, he really couldn't do it. After a few operations, the huge prize of 1 trillion was transferred to Lin Jun's card. Great! There's finally a possibility of implementing the plan. Lin Jun suppressed the excitement in his heart and continued to check the prize information. According to the rules of the War God Arena, there was a prize at the beginning of the elimination round. 1 low-grade astral weapon. After that, there were 3, and then 5, for a total of 9 low-grade astral weapons. After advancing to the 128th level, there was a mid-grade astral weapon. When one reached the 32nd level, there would be a total of 9 mid-grade astral weapons. Then, the top 16 would start with a high-grade astral weapon. When one reached the top 4, there would be a total of 9. The runner-up would get a top-grade astral weapon, and the champion would get a top-grade astral weapon. In total, there were 9 high-grade, mid-grade, and low-grade astral weapons, and 2 top-grade astral weapons. Moreover, the prizes this time were all in the form of a lottery wheel. What was drawn would depend on one's luck. I believe that my luck shouldn't be too bad. Lin Jun rubbed his hands. First, he started to draw low-grade astral weapons. Every time he drew, there would be 10 astral weapons. 6 of the attack type, 3 of the defense type, and 1 of the support type. Of course, Lin Jun didn't care too much about what low-grade astral weapons he drew. He wanted to test his luck. Drawing high-grade and top-grade astral weapons was the main point. The needle spun out, ran a few rounds, and landed on a piece of armor. Low-grade astral weapon armor. Lin Jun curled his lips. Very ordinary goods. However, Lin Jun never expected that this would be the best low-grade astral weapon he drew. Among the next 8, 7 were weapons, and 1 was armor. However, they were not as good as the first one. It doesn't matter. It's just a low-grade astral weapon. It's not worth much. Lin Jun comforted himself with a few words and then started to draw the middle-grade astral tool. Of the 9 middle-grade astral tools, 8 were weapons and 1 was armor. It's okay. It's mainly high and top quality. I didn't put my hopes on middle and low quality in the first place. After Lin Jun once again comforted himself, he started to draw the high-grade astral artifact. This time, it was even worse. All 9 chances were for weapons. There wasn't even a single piece of armor. Lin Jun scratched his head and sat in front of the computer. He wondered if his luck was too bad. The best grade astral tool turntable had already opened. There were 6 weapons, 3 defensive tools, and 1 support tool. Among them, that support astral tool was a mask for mental defense. The mask was also a half mask, revealing the eyes and mouth. It was silver and looked quite cool. The value of the other 9 best grade astral tools couldn't be compared to this. Even if they were added together, they still couldn't be compared. Lin Jun's hands were already a little tired from drawing. He wanted to look for outside help. Looking left and right, he saw that only his father was still busy in the kitchen. His mother actually took a Ning and you were out for a stroll. Lin Jun simply shouted, "Xiaowan." The door opened, and Xiaowan ran in. After seeing Lin Jun, she cried out a few times in grievance. She seemed to be hungry. Lin Jun opened the space ring. There were only 2 big crabs inside. He took one out and put on the ground. Xiaowan immediately pounced on it. She opened her mouth and ate at a terrifying speed. In less than 2 minutes, she ate the big crab. After eating the crab, Lin Jun felt that Xiaowan's hair seemed to be a little brighter. Her body also had a very subtle change. If it wasn't for Lin Jun's good eyesight, he really wouldn't have been able to see it. He thought that Xiaowan really needed a lot of nutrition. After he finished meeting the people from the country, he would take Xiaowan back to the 5 Dalian pools. There were a lot of high-level mutated poisonous insects there, which would allow him and Xiaowan to grow quickly. Moreover, there was still the Rui Lake in the 5 Dalian pools that hadn't been explored. However, Lin Jun still didn't have the confidence to explore the Rui Lake. "Xiaowan, come here. When you're full, give me a draw. Let's see how lucky you are." Xiaowan obviously wasn't full, but she still walked to Lin Jun's side and jumped onto his lap. Lin Jun pointed at the computer screen. He pointed at the mental defense mask and said, "That's the thing. If you can make the pointer stop there, I'll give you a crab." Xiaowan could understand Lin Jun's words. She immediately wagged her tail happily. 2 streams of smoke came out of her nostrils. Then, she picked up her claws and slapped the mouse. Pah! The pointer started to move. After a few rounds, it actually stopped on a mental defense mask. Lin Jun opened his mouth in surprise. He just wanted to change his luck. He didn't expect that he would actually win. This Xiaowan was too awesome. She actually got a top-grade astral tool mask. After Xiaowan finished the draw, she immediately looked at Lin Jun proudly. Then, she stuck out her tongue, looking like a glutton. Lin Jun hurriedly put down Xiaowan and took out the last crab. Xiaowan pounced on it again. She finished it in 2 minutes. She swallowed the last bit of dregs in 1 gulp. The floor was cleaner than a vacuum cleaner. At this time, the second top-grade astral tool was drawn. This time, the auxiliary astral tool turned into something similar to a watch. It looked like a watch, but there was nothing on the dial. It was blank. This is a positioning compass. Good stuff. Lin Jun recognized this compass. In his previous life, in the interstellar, those true experts or those who were especially rich would have this kind of compass. This kind of compass relied on the Dantian Qi or astral power to operate. Martial artists only needed to carry it with them. According to the strength of the martial artist's Dantian Qi, the compass could see people within a range of tens of meters or even thousands of meters. Ordinary people wouldn't be shown on it. It reflected the Dantian Qi or astral power of a person. The stronger the Dantian Qi, the darker the color. This was a portable radar, the best tool for exploring ancient god ruins. Lin Jun immediately called out to Xiaowan, "Xiaowan, come here. If you draw this for me, I'll take you to Wadalian Pond for a feast in a few days." He had already seen through the nature of this foodie. It would only work hard if he lured it with benefits. Sure enough, Xiao became spirited when she heard that they were going to Wadalian Pond for a feast. She went up and clapped the mouse again. Pah! The needle spun again. The result was the same as last time. It stopped on the positioning compass. Lin Jun was happy, but also a little regretful. If he had known, he would have let Xiao draw first. He wasted so many good things. However, Lin Jun was already content to be able to obtain these 2 top-grade astral tools. The lottery was over. This time, the War God Alliance's delivery speed was extremely fast. They delivered the items to Lin Jun in half an hour. Lin Jun didn't look at the other astral weapons. He immediately put on the watch and the mask. On the watch's compass, all the warriors within a range of about 100 meters were displayed. He saw his dad downstairs in the kitchen. The compass only showed a very faint light spot, which meant that there was no threat and he was safe. After putting on the mask, Lin Jun looked at himself in the mirror. He found that he seemed to be a different person after putting on the mask. The hair on his forehead was slightly raised. When he smiled, the corners of his mouth curled up. It actually had a strange charm, which made him somewhat unable to recognize his original appearance. The top-grade astral weapon for spiritual defense was completely immune to spiritual attacks below the diamond level. At the same time, it also weakened diamond-level attacks to a certain extent. With Lin Jun's spiritual power that had just entered the diamond level, if he wore this mask, even a mid-diamond spirit reader wouldn't be a threat to him. Lin Jun was very satisfied with these 2 items. After receiving the prizes from the Ares arena, he took out a bunch of space rings. These rings were from the battle in Paris. Lin Jun had once told Xiao to remember to bring back the other people's space rings after the battle. Xiao remembered that there were a total of 12 space rings here. He opened these space rings one by one. Most of them belonged to the EU Ares Alliance, and a few were worn by warlords. There were some things in each ring, but the astral weapons used by those people were basically not inside. This was because the astral weapons were worn or held in their hands during the battle. When they died, they were left there. Lin Jun didn't gain much from the first 11 rings. There were 8 low-grade astral weapons, 3 mid-grade astral weapons, and 1 high-grade astral weapon. Cash, mutant beast crystals, and other things added up to about 8 billion. The bank cards were worthless to Lin Jun. Finally, he picked up a ring. This was Old John's space ring, which had also been brought back by Xiao. Old John was definitely rich. This space ring was also the current 3rd-generation product. The internal space was not small. After Lin Jun opened it, he immediately found something he needed. It was a furnace that was more than 5 meters tall and more than 3 meters wide. It looked like a gourd, but it was actually made of metal. Lin Jun never dreamed that he would be able to find this in Old John's ring. It was actually a star shift furnace. The astral weapons used as materials were placed in the lower layer, and the ones that needed to be injected with astral power were placed in the upper layer. With the powerful flame power, the astral power in the materials in the lower layer would be transferred to the upper layer. Generally, 10 astral weapons of the same grade could be used to complete a star shift. This is simply tailor-made for me. I now have more than 10 high-grade astral weapons. I will use this to repair the star observation mirror. Lin Jun immediately transferred the star shift furnace into his space ring. This thing could not only complete a star shift, but it could also be used to refine astral weapons. It was a necessity for refining weapons in the galaxy. He didn't expect it to be so well preserved on Earth. It was simply incredible. Chapter 274. After counting the spoils of war, Lin Jun's compass showed 3 light spots. The left and right light spots were slightly green, which meant that there was some threat, but the threat was not very big. The middle light spot was about the same color as his father's light spot, so the threat was negligible. It was his mother who had brought in Ning and Yu back. Lin Jun looked down from upstairs, and sure enough, after a while, his mother and the other 2 walked into the courtyard. His mother looked radiant, and after recovering her body cell vitality, she looked like a young woman. Now, she was even younger by a few years, and looked like Anning and Yuer's elder sister. The few of them walked into the house, and started to cook and make dumplings. At this moment, Lin Jun's family was like an ordinary family. Lin Jun also busied himself for a while. Looking at his young parents and his two outstanding girlfriends, he felt very satisfied. The sumptuous dinner started. The table was filled with dumplings and stir-fried dishes. Now that the family had money, they did not need to worry about spending money to celebrate. There was all kinds of delicious food, and Ning and Su Mingyue also had wine glasses in front of them. Lin Jun took the lead and raised his glass. Everyone raised their glasses to celebrate Lin Jun bringing glory to our country. Cheers! Lin Jun smiled and looked at his father. His father knew him best. His father had seen through his intentions. And Ning and Su Mingyue's faces were red. Although they liked Lin Jun, it was still too early to talk about marriage. But when they heard Lin Jun mention the whole family, they were very happy. The few of them clinked their glasses and drank. After the meal, and Ning said that she wanted to go home for a few days. She had not gone back since she returned to Bing City. After Ning left, Su Mingyue also didn't stay in Lin Jun's house. She had promised Gong Sun Du that she wouldn't meet with Lin Jun before the stargazing mirror was repaired. It was already an exception for her to come out. Besides, it was inconvenient for her to stay in Lin Jun's house. His two girlfriends had left, and his parents did not rest after dinner. They continued to cultivate under the guidance of their personal assistant. Everything was back on track. The next morning, the people from the country finally arrived. Lu Ming, the mayor of Bingcheng Bay City, was also present. He was an 8th grade war god when Lin Jun was still cultivating. Now, he was just a quasi-star realm cultivator. There were too many mundane things on his mind, so he couldn't focus on his cultivation. However, Lu Ming was only a follower. The leader of the country was also present. More than 10 aircrafts landed in Lin Jun's villa. Not only were there a large number of staff accompanying them, but there were also many reporters who were preparing to interview them live. There was also a hot topic on the internet these days. It was about what kind of request Lin Jun would make to the country. After all, this was a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. The netizens had all kinds of strange guesses. Some thought that Lin Jun would ask for a large amount of money. Some thought that Lin Jun would ask for a set of top-grade astral tools. Some even guessed that Lin Jun would ask to be the mayor of Bingcheng Bay City. Lin Jun and his parents welcomed the leader of the country at home. A large group of people came into the house to interview them live. Fortunately, Lin Jun's villa was big enough. The leader of the country sat on a sofa and chatted with Lin Jun with a smile. Lin Jun, sometimes I envy you. You have great power and you're so young. Your future is limitless. You're much stronger than us mundane people. Lin Jun laughed heartily. Everyone has their own way of living. There are many things I envy about you. The camera was clicking and photos came out one after another. After chatting for a while, the leader of the country awarded Lin Jun 10 billion in cash, as well as a top-grade astral tool spear. Lin Jun looked at the spear and liked it very much. The spear was called 7 Kills. It was 5 meters long and weighed 1,200 kilograms. It was black and extremely sharp. As a top-grade astral tool, the broken jade spear could not keep up with the times. At Lin Jun's level, it was necessary to have a suitable weapon. After accepting the country's reward, the leader of the country said, "This gift is not proportional to your actual contributions. It is more symbolic. However, the country will not treat you unfairly. You can also make a request. I can promise you in front of the whole country. As long as it does not go against the national interest or endanger the country's security, I can promise you anything." When a leader of the country said this, almost the whole country's audience was waiting for Lin Jun's reply. They wanted to see what request Lin Jun would make. Lin Jun stood up and opened a map of Bing City Bay City. He had prepared this map beforehand. Seeing Lin Jun take out the map of Bing City, Lu Ming's face changed. Was Lin Jun really going to be the mayor of Bing City Bay City? It should not be. It would be a waste of time for a martial artist like him to be the mayor. However, Lin Jun had no intention of being the mayor. Instead, he said to the leader of the country, "Sir, my request is not simple. I hope that you can build 2 city walls here, on the same scale as Bing City's defensive city walls. Even if they are slightly weaker, it will be fine. However, they must be completed within 2 months." Seeing the two lines Lin Jun drew, many people's faces changed. The lines Lin Jun drew were along the banks of the Songhua River. They were to build two city walls at the borders of Jiangnan and Jiangbei. However, according to Lin Jun's request, the amount of work required was too large. Not to mention how difficult it was to build the city walls. Now that technology was advanced, construction was not very difficult. As long as there was enough money, it could be completed in 2 months. The difficult part was the demolition work along the banks of the river. If it was an ordinary person, it would be fine. However, the scenery along the banks of the river was beautiful. It had always been the residence of high officials and nobles. Even many high-level martial artists had residences along the banks of the river. Even the headquarters of the Wanhao Group was among the demolition works. If all these places were to be demolished, the resistance would not be ordinary. Lu Ming even knew that there were a few hidden martial artists who had reached the Star Realm. They also had residences along the river. These people might not listen to Lu Ming. The biggest difficulty was that the Church of Saint Sophia was not far from the river. According to Lin Jun's request, the Church of Saint Sophia would have to be demolished. Even the leader of the country did not expect Lin Jun to make such a request. He could not help but ask, "Can you explain why you're doing this? Isn't Bing City Bay City divided into Jiangnan City and Jiangbei City?" Lin Jun said, "The reason is very simple. I have been out in the wild for a long time. Recently, I have discovered many abnormalities with mutated beasts. I think that high-level mutated beasts will be born soon. As everyone knows, once a high-level mutated beast appears, it will definitely endanger the safety of Bing City. The biggest weakness of Bing City's defense is this river. Once the river is occupied by mutated beasts, Bing City will fall. But if we have these two city walls, it will be different. The mutated beasts in the water will not be able to enter Bing City, and they will not be able to communicate with the mutated beasts on land. Bing City will be very safe. To prevent future problems, I think these two city walls must be built." The leader of the country nodded and looked at Lu Ming. "Mayor Lu Ming, what do you think?" Lu Ming was a little distressed. Everyone knows the danger of mutated beasts attacking the city. But Bing City has been through it many times before and has survived safely. I don't think it is as serious as Lin Jun said. Also, if we're to talk about the actual implementation, these two city walls will be almost 100 kilometers long. If we include the demolition work, the cost will be astronomical. Bing City does not have that much money. Lu Ming did not want to do this, but he could not say it out loud. He could only use money as an excuse. Lin Jun knew what Lu Ming was thinking. He asked, "How much will it cost?" Lu Ming made a rough estimate. If we include the demolition work, it will cost at least 400 billion. If we include some weapons, then it will cost 600 billion. Fine, I will fork out the money, but it must be completed within 2 months. Can Mayor Lu do it? You are willing to fork out the money. Lu Ming looked at Lin Jun in disbelief. It was 600 billion and not 60 million. That's right. I'm willing to fork out the money. Chief, do you think my request is against the national interest? It will endanger the national security? The chief shook his head. He had no choice but to agree. What's more, Lin Jun had agreed to fork out the money. No matter how difficult it was, the country must agree. Fine, Mayor Lu. Lin Jun is also a patriot. Let's settle this. The chief made the decision decisively. Lu Ming could only agree. Everyone left. After that, it was time to arrange the work. The areas that could be started immediately. The areas that could be demolished were demolished immediately. The areas that were difficult to demolish were put aside for later work. Lin Jun also immediately transferred 600 billion to Lu Ming. This huge amount of money shocked the whole country. Although they did not know how Lin Jun got the money, but the reason was enough to defend against the mutated beasts. The mutated beasts could destroy the human race. They were the common enemy of mankind. Lin Jun's actions were understandable. It was just that he was making a mountain out of a molehill. But he was willing to fork out 600 billion for the country and Bing City to defend against the mutated beasts. If the waterway was really breached, then it would be over. This kind of noble character made the whole country praise Lin Jun. Lin Jun had no choice but to do this. There were only 2 months left before the monsters would attack the city. He had thought for a long time, but still could not think of a way to stop the water monsters from attacking Ice City. He could only use this method to completely cut off the water monsters' path of attack. As long as the city wall was built, Ice City would be safe. Although the method was feasible, there were some side effects. Lin Jun would offend some people because of this. The others were fine, and Lin Jun did not care. However, there were some Star Realm experts who lived along the river, such as Sophia Church's Grandmaster Allen. They would definitely be dissatisfied with Lin Jun because of this. However, Lin Jun did not care. He would soon go to Wadalian Lake to cultivate. After he got the last special meteorite in Rui Lake, he also wanted to meet the Star Realm experts on Earth. Chapter 275. The video call connected. At first, it was Su Mingyue who said to Lin Jun, "Lin Jun, my master wants to talk to you." Then, Gong Sun-do appeared in the video. He was wearing a starry sky robe and looked at Lin Jun with dignity. "Lin Jun, do you know how big of a mistake you've made this time?" Lin Jun respected Gong Sun-do after all. He was Yu Er's master. He smiled and said, "Senior Gong Sun, if you say that offending a few Star Realm experts is a mistake, then I don't think it's a big mistake. Don't think that you can look down on the Star Realm just because you've won the War God Arena. With your current strength, you'll definitely be at the bottom of the Star Realm. In my opinion, your current strength shouldn't even be comparable to Halaf." Lin Jun nodded. This was also what he was worried about. Halaf was indeed a problem. This person was already in the Star Realm. As a natural-born king of strength, his path was more extreme. His strength was superior, but his speed was very slow. His victory in the War God Arena was also largely due to an accident. If he familiarized himself with the power of the Star Realm and came to seek revenge, Lin Jun would not be able to deal with him. Seeing that Lin Jun agreed with his words, Gong Sun-do's expression eased a little. "I originally didn't want to meddle in your affairs, but Yu Er is very worried. I can only teach you a lesson first." "Thank you, Senior Gong Sun. Do you know how many Star Realm experts there are on Earth?" Gong Sun-do asked. Lin Jun shook his head slightly. He really didn't know. Although Lin Jun was reborn, he was only a small general in the Zephyr Dojo in his previous life. He hadn't even reached the warlord level. He had advanced to the Star Realm when humans had migrated into the galaxy. At that time, the Star Realm wasn't worth much anymore. That was why Lin Jun looked up to ordinary war gods in his previous life, let alone Star Realm experts. His understanding of Earth Star Realm experts came from some legends. He felt that there should be a lot of them, but he didn't know the exact number. "Then I'll tell you. As far as I know, there are about 1,000 Star Realm experts on Earth." "That many?" Lin Jun was stunned. He thought there were only 100 or 80. "Of course. I'm only 60 years old this year. Am I not a Star Realm expert?" Chun Fenglai is a few years older than me, in his early 70s. He founded the Zephyr Dojo 40 years ago. He is also a Star Realm expert. But do you know how many years it has been since people started cultivating? Lin Jun was stunned. Gong Sun-do's words made sense. There were talents in every generation, and there would never be a lack of geniuses. The cultivation system of martial artists had been perfected for more than 800 years. Even if a Star Realm expert appeared every 10 years, there should be more than 800 of them by now. Moreover, 10 years was too long. Take the current situation, for example. Lin Jun, Su Mingyue, and Ning were all about to advance to the Star Realm in the near future. Therefore, a Star Realm expert would appear every 2 or 3 years. This was especially true in the later stages, when cultivation speed became faster and faster. Sometimes a few Star Realm experts would appear every year. Even if someone died along the way, there should still be more than 1,000 Star Realm experts. One had to know that once a martial artist formed a Star Core, their lifespan would increase greatly. Under normal circumstances, it was normal for a Star Core stage expert to live for 500 or 600 years. There were even quite a few who lived for 1,000 years. Seeing Lin Jun's shocked expression, Gong Sun-do continued. "Therefore, don't think that you are invincible with your current strength. Even Halaf doesn't have the qualifications to enter the meteor list in the world of Star Realm martial artists." Lin Jun had heard of this before. It seemed that there were several star realm experts on Earth, but he didn't know the details. You haven't heard, right? I can tell you that the star realm has 18 heavenly star ranking experts, 36 dark star ranking experts, and 72 meteor list experts. Except for a few old fellows who only know how to cultivate, basically all the star realm experts are listed. Most of the star realm experts don't even have the qualifications to enter the list. I dare say that any random meteor list expert can instantly kill Hollof and Old John. Do you think you can compete in the star realm with your current strength? Lin Jun shook his head. He was very clear about this matter. Although he was known as the #1 under the star realm, he was nothing compared to the old fellows who had been in the star realm for many years. That's why you've caused a lot of trouble this time. I've already heard that several star realm experts living in seclusion in Ice City are dissatisfied with what you've done, including Alan. Alan is on the meteor list. These people pursue martial arts, so they don't have much of a concept of a country or a nation. If the god of war still interacts with the secular world, then the star realm experts basically have no interaction with the secular world. They won't care if you, Lin Jun, have made any contributions to the country or the people. As long as you affect them, they may take action. Don't you want to explore the ancient god ruins in the future? As long as you go, if you encounter these people, then you may be in danger. At this time, Su Mingwei said, Master, help Lin Jun. Girl, you're helping an outsider now. Am I not helping him? Letting him know the dangers of the star realm earlier can also help him grow faster. Thank you for the reminder, Senior Gong-san. I will remember it. You might be able to reach the star realm in a year or two. If you can really reach the star realm, then you won't have to be afraid of ordinary star realm warriors. But before that, you have to be careful. Right now, you don't only have Hollof as your enemy. As far as I know, there's a business group called Wanhao in Bingqing. This time, the headquarters of Wanhao was also demolished. The person behind this group might want to deal with you, and that person is also a Star Realm warrior. Wanhao Group. Lin Jun was stunned. Of course, he knew about the Wanhao Group. It belonged to Li Tianhao's family. The chairman of the group was Li Wanfeng, who was now a 9th grade war god. His wife, Zhao Siqing, was also a 9th grade war god. She once tried to harm Lin Jun. If it was just this couple, Lin Jun wouldn't care. But now, Gong Sun Du told him that there was a Star Realm expert behind the Wanhao Group. This was a bit dangerous. That's right. You and the Wanhao Group had some conflicts before. This time, they will definitely not tolerate you. What is the chairman called? Li Wanfeng. Lin Jun said. When you killed Li Tianhao, he was exploring the ruins of the ancient god, so he didn't have time to deal with you. Later on, when he came out, you went to the Divine General Training Camp, so he didn't have the chance to make a move. When you appeared in the War God Arena, he also came out of the ruins of the ancient god a few days ago. I also heard from Friend that after he saw the live broadcast on TV, he said that he wanted to kill you. This person is vengeful. You have to be careful. If you die, you will marry someone else. Master, you're talking nonsense. I won't marry someone else. Girl, you're making trouble again. I'm just warning him. The phone was hung up. Lin Jun held the phone and was secretly vigilant. Gong Sun Du's call came at the right time. It made Lin Jun, who was a little proud, calm down. This time, in order to prevent Bingqiang from being captured, Lin Jun had made a lot of preparations. As long as the city walls were built, he didn't even need to be here. After thinking for a while, Lin Jun decided to leave home immediately. However, he was a little worried about his family. Generally speaking, when martial artists sought revenge, there was a debtor for every grievance, and they rarely targeted their family members. However, according to Gong Sun Du, Liao's character was very bad, so the safety of his family was also within Lin Jun's consideration. Lin Jun called Yang Jianying. After hearing about this matter, Yang Jianying pondered for a moment. I know Liao. He wasn't a good person before he advanced to the Star Realm. How about this? Ask your parents to live in the dojo. The training environment here is also better. Although Azure Sky isn't a first-class dojo in Bingqiang, it's still quite famous in the country. The founder of Azure Sky, Mr. Du Changkong, has advanced to the Star Realm for many years. Although he's not as good as Chun Feng Lai, the gap isn't big. Even if Li Yao has a few guts, he wouldn't dare to come to the dojo and behave atrociously. Okay, I'll bring my parents over immediately. There wasn't much to bring with them. Now that his parents mainly focused on cultivation, they didn't need anything else. Lin Jun brought his parents and 2 teaching assistants onto the flying saucer, explaining along the way. Soon, they arrived at the Azure Sky Dojo. Lin Lie and Li Qin also told Lin Jun not to worry, that they would stay here and cultivate in peace. In any case, it was the same wherever they cultivated. Lin Jun also told his parents some things they needed to pay attention to before he left the dojo. He had to leave. He couldn't hide in the dojo forever. Sooner or later, he would have to go out into the outside world. If Liao really came, Lin Jun believed that even if he couldn't beat him for the time being, he would have no problem escaping. After leaving the dojo, Lin Jun didn't immediately go to Wadalian Pond. Instead, he bought some food from the market next to the dojo, preparing to eat when he went out exploring. However, after a short while, he discovered that several dots of light appeared on the compass in his hand. There were usually a few colors on the compass: yellow, cyan, black, red, and purple. Yellow represented no threat. For example, warriors, generals, or ordinary war gods weren't a threat to Lin Jun. The compass's reaction was yellow. Cyan represented a mild threat. For example, elite war gods, quasi-star realms, and so on. People like Yu Er and Ning had the ability to slightly threaten Lin Jun. Black represented a fatal threat. It meant that this person had a very high chance of killing Lin Jun. Those who could reach black were definitely Star Realm experts. Red represented an extreme threat. It was almost impossible to resist. As for purple, Lin Jun had heard of it before in the Interstellar. It was definitely in existence on another level. There were 3 dots of light on the compass. 2 of them were cyan, and 1 was black. There is no doubt that they were Li Wanfeng, Lin Lie, and Li Yao. His nose is quite sharp. He actually found me in such a short time. Lin Jun casually threw a large bill to the vendor and put the things he bought into his spatial ring. He lowered his head and quickly walked 2 steps. Using the crowd as cover, he put on the metal mask and took off his outer clothes. Chapter 276. Li Wanfeng and Zhao Xiqing followed closely behind Li Yao. When they arrived, they looked around and took out their phones. "Do you think Lin Jun is here?" After a while, a man walked out from not far away and came to Li Wanfeng and his wife. He was indeed shopping at this place just now, but he disappeared in the blink of an eye. "Useless thing, you can't even watch a person." Li Wanfeng cursed, then said to Li Yao, "Father, that Lin Jun might have sensed something and ran away. Where will he go?" Li Yao asked. "I think he might go to Wadalian Lake. He cultivated there twice before, and it's very likely that he will return there again." "That's good. Anyway, he can cultivate anywhere. Wadalian Lake is also an ancient god's ruin. I'll go there to cultivate. As long as I meet him, I'll immediately kill him." "But father, what if Lin Jun doesn't go to Wadalian Lake and instead goes to the ancient god's ruin at Changbai Mountain? Wouldn't that be a waste of time?" Li Yao sneered. "It's useless for him to go to Changbai Mountain. This time, I've already contacted a few Star Realm experts who live in Bingqing Bay City. They all have a lot of opinions about Lin Jun. Changbai Mountain is where they usually train. I'll call them. If they see Lin Jun at Changbai Mountain, then Lin Jun will die even more miserably. Then what if he goes to other ancient gods' ruins? You don't know this. Ancient gods' ruins can't be explored by one person alone. Besides, Lin Jun is so famous now that people know him wherever he goes. I've been in the Star Realm for many years, and I still have some like-minded friends. He'll be discovered wherever he goes. As long as I get the news, I'll immediately go and deal with him." Haha. I'm relieved to hear father's words. If Lin Jun has the ability, then he won't go to any ancient god's ruins. Otherwise, there won't be a place for him to hide at the ends of the earth. Under Li Wanfeng's flattery, Liao really made the call and walked further and further away. At this time, Lin Jun glanced at Li Yao and the others from the crowd not far away, feeling somewhat distressed. Offending these Star Realm cultivators was really troublesome. He actually couldn't go to Wadalian Pond, and he couldn't even go to Changbai Mountain. There were not many ancient god ruins in the world, other than the Five Dalian Lakes and the Changbai Mountains. If one wanted to go there, they could only go south or even go overseas. Seeing Li Yao and the others leave, Lin Jun walked around and unknowingly arrived at the Millennium Time Bar. This was a gathering place for martial artists. Since Lin Jun was wearing a mask, no one would be able to recognize him. He walked in the bar. There were many low-level martial artists gathered in the hall on the first floor. Most of them were warriors and a few were warlords. All of them were eating and drinking to their heart's content. The atmosphere was lively. Seeing Lin Jun walk in, many people shifted their gazes away. Because Lin Jun had the dark star in his body, as long as he didn't want others to see what level he was, others wouldn't be able to see it. However, at this moment, with the mask covering him, Lin Jun unrestrainedly released his realm. With his powerful aura, anyone could see that he was a high-level elite war god. No one was willing to take the initiative to provoke a high-level war god. Who knew if these people had some weird temperament? It wouldn't be good if they got into trouble. At this moment, Lin Jun was wearing a black tight suit, revealing his fit and beautiful body. With a silver metal mask and his slightly messy long hair, he had a strong aura. After entering, the bartender immediately smiled at Lin Jun. "Good afternoon, sir. Do you want a drink?" "Of course." "Then, sir, please go to the third floor. That's where the war gods drink." Lin Jun followed the bartender to the third floor. Along the way, he encountered some martial artists. When they saw Lin Jun, they all avoided him. On the third floor, there were about 20 to 30 war gods drinking and discussing topics. Lin Jun ordered 2 bottles of high alcohol. With his current physical fitness, as long as he didn't drink too much, he wouldn't drink too much. With some side dishes, Lin Jun listened to the discussions of the people around him. At the table next to him, a few war gods were discussing. "Brother Liu, why haven't I seen you go to the ancient god ruins for a while? Haven't I been watching the war god arena all this time? I haven't had time to go out. However, it's almost time now. The war god arena is finished. I should go out and exercise. Where do you plan to go? Woodalian Lake or Changbai Mountain?" There are too many people at Woodalian Lake right now. The speed of collecting crystals isn't fast. There are also a few star realms at Changbai Mountain. I plan to go further. "Oh, then where do you want to go?" "I haven't thought about it yet. Give me an idea. Should I go to the North Pole or the South Sea?" Lin Jun knew that old Liu was talking about 2 places. One was an ancient god ruins in the northern part of Russia, and the other was an ancient god ruins in Huaxia's South Sea Island. Another war god said, "Do you have to go there? I heard that an ancient god ruins similar to a spaceship were recently discovered in the Arabian region of Central Asia. There are many exotic beasts inside. Not only can you get crystals that can replace dark energy stones, but there are also many astral weapons. That's a treasure land." Old Liu smiled bitterly. "You're talking about the city of ancient gods? It's not easy to go there. It's the intersection point of China, the European Union, the African Union, and Russia. Moreover, people from India and the United States have also come over. The people who go there are at least high-level elite war gods. Quasi-star realm experts can be found everywhere. There are even many star realm experts who have gone there to explore. I've only compressed the second stage of Dantianchi. If I go there, I'll just be delivering food to them. Let alone me. Even Lin Jun would have a hard time going there. Is it that dangerous?" Another war god was surprised. "Of course it's dangerous. I heard that the city of ancient gods has 4 floors, and the layout inside is like a big ship. However, it shouldn't be a spaceship. That place is dozens of miles long. How can there be such a big spaceship? Also, there are mutated beasts running amok inside. There are already S-class mutated beasts on the first floor. If you want to go there, you have to form a team if you're not very strong. Where do I go to find a team? I also want to go and take a look. It's on the internet. Recently, the city of ancient gods has been quite popular. There's a special forum. War gods can log in and check it out. There's a lot of team information there, but you better be prepared. The requirements are quite harsh." The war gods all took out their phones and scrolled through it. Lin Jun also took out his phone and searched for this forum. He quickly found the login account. There were very eye-catching words on the webpage. Newly discovered city of ancient gods in the desert of Saudi Arabia. Countless exotic beast crystals, top-quality astral weapons, waiting for warriors to explore and conquer. After opening it, there were many posts about the city of ancient gods. At this time, Lin Jun remembered that there was indeed such a place in his previous life. However, only war gods could log into this forum. Lin Jun was only a low-level person in his previous life and didn't have the qualifications to enter and check it out. He only knew that many good things had appeared here, but it was also one of the most dangerous ancient god ruins. It seems like a spaceship in the city of ancient gods. How can there be such a place? Lin Jun looked at the posts. There were war gods from all over the world who logged into this forum. Not only were there war gods, but there were also many quasi-star experts. There were about 1,000 star realms in the world, but the number of war gods was definitely above 200,000. When the war god arena started, there were more than 30,000 war gods recommended by dojos. This was only a small group of war gods. Most war gods didn't participate in the war god arena. Between war gods and star realms, quasi-star realms were also a large group. Advancing from the quasi-star realm to the star realm was definitely the most important step for a cultivator. Not every quasi-star realm cultivator could successfully advance. In fact, the vast majority of war gods were stuck at the quasi-star realm, unable to take that important step forward. According to Lin Jun's estimation, the number of quasi-star realms in the world was at least 10 times more than star realms. There should be between 30 to 50,000 of them. The reason why these quasi-star realms rarely appeared was because they all hoped to take that important step forward. They were all cultivating diligently. Yu Jinhua, who was a quasi-star realm and still lingered in the secular world, was definitely very rare. The forum was filled with posts about the city of ancient gods. European team recruiting. Quasi-star expert leading. 2 9th-level war gods as teammates. Looking for 2 new teammates. 9th-level war gods. Dantian energy compression at least 4 levels. Spirit reader preferred. Indian team recruiting. 2 quasi-star experts leading. Looking for a spirit reader of 8th level and above. Huaxia's Northwest Army recruiting. War god arena expert foam and I leading. Looking for 2 9th-level war gods. Quasi-star experts preferred. No restrictions on nationality. 8th-level war gods leading. Looking for intermediate-level war gods and above. Best if they're elites. Questions about loot distribution can be discussed in person. 3rd-level war gods. Late silver-level spirit reader. Looking for an intermediate-level war god team. Anyone interested? According to the standard of a martial artist, 5 people was the best team. This was already recognized by everyone. Moreover, in the ruins of the ancient gods, if you acted alone, you would definitely become the target of other martial artists. Moreover, even if you were strong and could do whatever you wanted on the first floor, you wouldn't be able to do it on the second floor alone. Therefore, very few people would choose to enter the ruins of the ancient gods alone. That would definitely be a conspicuous target. After seeing the news about the spaceship, Lin Jun had already decided to go there. There were all kinds of people there. It was the best place to hide. Since it was currently difficult to enter the Rui Lake from the 5-Dalian Pond, he might as well go to other places to gain experience. As for the problem of forming a team, Lin Jun quickly chose a target. A Huaxia team was led by a quasi-star expert. The team was also made up of elite war gods. Their combat strength was not bad. Their requirements were advanced-level war gods and spirit readers. The team leader's name was Wu Hai. He came from the southern headquarters city. The post had just been posted. It wasn't easy for them to recruit people. Spirit readers were definitely popular. Moreover, they were advanced-level war gods. Usually, spirit readers who had reached this level were popular goods. Their team only had 1 quasi-star expert, Wu Hai, so they didn't have much of an advantage. I'll find this team. Their strength is average and not too conspicuous. They can hide my identity temporarily and also explore the city of ancient gods. Chapter 277. The call was quickly connected. A voice came from the other side. Hello, I'm Wu Hai. Hello, I'm In Ming. I saw your recruitment notice. Are you guys going to explore the city of ancient god? Lin Jun gave himself a temporary name, and Ning and Ming Yu's names were one character each. Yes. Are you an advanced war god? Yes, I'm a 7th level war god. 7th level? That's a bit low. Then what level is your spiritual power? Wu Hai asked. I'm currently at the later stage of the gold level. Lin Jun thought for a while and decided not to reveal his true status. After all, he couldn't reveal his identity now. Later stage of the gold level. That's passable. It's not easy to find a dark gold level war god. We're planning to find a peak gold level war god. All right, come over first. We'll set up camp at the outskirts of the city of ancient god. We'll talk about it when we get there. Since you're coming over anyway, come over quickly. If you want to talk about it, we'll talk about it later. Lin Jun quickly reached an agreement. He immediately rode the Black Wraith and headed towards the desert area of Central Asia. Xiao had been staying inside the Black Wraith. Lin Jun found a way to seal Xiao inside the Black Wraith. That way, he could store her in the interspatial ring. Seeing Lin Jun enter, Xiao immediately jumped up and down happily. She knew that she was finally going to leave Bingsheng and look for good food. Lin Jun called his family, Su Mingyue and Ning on the way. He told them about some things. And Ning and Su Mingyue were also very busy. As warriors, they also needed to train. The two of them were about to enter the advanced war god level. Moreover, they had their own unique training methods. Lin Jun didn't need to worry about them. As for their safety, Lin Jun didn't need to worry about it. Su Mingyue's master was Gong Sun Du, so she didn't need to be afraid of anyone. And Ning family was currently the largest financial group in the country, and the hidden strength behind them couldn't be underestimated. After explaining the matter, Lin Jun increased his speed. The Black Phantom passed through the City Defense Army scan and left Bingsheng, flying towards Central Asia. As soon as his black ghost left Bingsheng, someone from the City Defense Force called Li Yao. After Li Yao hung up the phone, he said to Li Wanfeng and Zhao Xiqing, who were beside him, "We've found Lin Jun's tracks. That kid is actually heading west. I reckon he's heading towards the city of ancient gods." Li Wanfeng gave him a thumbs up. "Dad, you're still the best. You found Lin Jun so easily." "Huh? Why don't you take a look at what your dad does?" I knew Lin Jun should still be nearby. I deliberately told him that I was going to intercept him at the various ancient god ruins, and he definitely heard it. As such, he can only go somewhere further away. Moreover, he wouldn't expect me to have spies in the City Defense Army. As long as I pay attention to the people who leave the city in the next 2 days, I'll naturally be able to find him. Then, Dad, we'll go with you to the city of ancient gods to catch Lin Jun, okay? Zhao Xiqing asked. No need. The city of ancient gods isn't simple. It's a newly discovered ancient god ruin, and it's quite dangerous. I can move around alone, but bringing you guys along will only get in the way. There's no need for you guys to follow me. I'll go alone. Li Wanfeng and Zhao Xiqing stopped talking. Since Li Yao had made his move, they believed that Lin Jun wouldn't be able to escape. According to the coordinates on the map, it didn't take long for Lin Jun to reach the sky above the ancient god ruin. After the god transformation, the Central Asia region had become a forbidden area. Not only did no one come here, but even the mutant beasts were almost extinct. It was a completely dead land. In addition, technology wasn't advanced enough, and there were too many places that humans couldn't explore, so this desert was never discovered by anyone. Until the past 2 years, when technology flourished, the internet was restored, satellites were in the sky, and various countries developed aircraft that could fly across continents. Only then did the secret of this desert gradually become known. The so-called city of ancient gods was located in the middle of the desert. If one didn't look carefully, they would think that it was a huge sand dune. It was said that a few months ago, an earthquake had occurred, and a part of the sand dune had collapsed, revealing the strange scenery inside. When Lin Jun approached the city of ancient gods, he thought that his aircraft might be too eye-catching. However, when he arrived, he realized that there were dozens of black phantoms parked here. His aircraft's arrival was almost unnoticed. Lin Jun slowly landed, and then looked at the huge city of ancient gods in front of him. Amidst the endless yellow sand, A sand dune rose from the ground. The sand dune stretched for dozens of kilometers, and its height was at least 2,000 meters. It was simply a majestic mountain. The collapsed part in front of him was the entrance to the city of ancient gods. He didn't know how long the city of ancient gods had existed. From afar, it looked like an ancient building. The entrance seemed to be made of metal, and it was covered in rust. Outside of the rust, there seemed to be a layer of yellow light. However, Lin Jun's eyes narrowed. Others might not recognize it, but he did. This wasn't a castle. It was really a spaceship. As expected, there really are spaceships on Earth. This layer of yellow light is clearly the energy shield of the spaceship that is about to dissipate. I wonder how many years this spaceship has been here. The energy shield is still in use. Maybe there really are people inside. Lin Jun put away the black phantoms and dialed Wu Hai's number again. "And Ming, are you here?" Wu Hai asked. "I'm here. Where are you guys?" "Go to the entrance of the ancient god ruins. There's a large row of tents. The one with the number 133 is where we are." Lin Jun hung up the phone and then walked towards the gathering place of the warriors. Not only was he wearing a metal mask now, but he had also cut his original long hair short. After changing into clothes, he looked like a completely different person. However, his sharp eyes occasionally flashed, proving that he was a telekinesis master. Many tents had already been set up at the entrance of the city of ancient gods. A new ancient god ruins would always attract people's attention, and warriors from all over the world gathered here. Moreover, the ancient god ruins had been taken over by the War God Alliance. Just like the 5 Dalian pools, there was a fee at the entrance. There are even some tents in the surroundings that belonged to merchants. They did business with warriors here, buying mutated beast crystals and astral tools on the spot, and providing food and so on. Lin Jun even saw a few gorgeously dressed women standing at the entrance of the tents. They were clearly doing business. This is simply a small town. However, the residents of this town are at least at the War God realm. When he arrived in front of the 133 tent, Lin Jun first asked, "I'm Ming. Is anyone here? Please come in." A man's voice sounded, and Lin Jun walked in. The tent was about 20 square meters, and there were 4 people inside. There was a table in the middle, and the 4 people were sitting around it. The one facing Lin Jun was a Star Realm expert. He looked to be in his 30s, and he was very powerful. When he saw Lin Jun walk in, this person stood up and shook hands with Lin Jun. "Welcome, and Ming. I'm Wu Hai." "Hello, Captain Wu." Lin Jun smiled. "Well, before we talk about the specifics, take a look at this. If you agree, then we will explore together. If you don't agree, then we will each find another person." Wu Hai handed over a piece of paper. On it was written what the team members needed to do, as well as the distribution of benefits. Lin Jun skimmed through it. Lin Jun didn't need them to teach him how to fight. In terms of distribution of benefits, they originally wanted to find a peak gold spirit reader or even an early dark gold spirit reader. Lin Jun was a late gold spirit reader, so he didn't meet the requirements. Therefore, Lin Jun was ranked 3rd in the team. The first was Captain Wu Hai. This person was born with superhuman strength. He had an 8th level Dantian compression, an Earth Elemental Master, and a Star Realm expert. He was the strongest fighter in the team. When the spoils were distributed, he received 40%. The second was Zhang Zhun, a peak 9th level elite war god. He had 7 levels of compression, and he controlled the power of the Wind Elemental Master. He received 25%. The third was Lin Jun, a 7th level war god and spirit reader. He received 15%. There's also a person called Luo Fei and a female warrior called Qin Huashan. They both received 10%. Luo Fei, a peak 8th level elite war god. He received 10%. Qin Huashan, an 8th level war god. She received 10%. It could be said that this team was very strong, especially Wu Hai. This person's strength was even higher than Yujin was. Lin Jun receiving 10% wasn't a big deal. His main goal was to enter the team. After entering the team as a member, he would be exempt from inspection when he entered the ancient god ruins. This way, no one would know where Lin Jun went. "All right, we'll go according to Captain Wu's distribution conditions. I'll take 15%. That's good. I was worried that you wouldn't agree. Since that's the case, we'll be members of the same team. After Wu Hai finished speaking, Zhang Jun sized up Lin Jun. Can you do it? You don't look that old. Do you have enough battle experience? Although we're looking for a spirit reader to deal with mutated beasts, there are many times when we have to fight with humans. If you don't have enough battle experience, you have to tell us in advance. If we get screwed over at a critical moment, we'll be in trouble. Lin Jun smiled. It shouldn't be a problem. If I didn't have some skills, I wouldn't have volunteered. You talk big. I hope your skills are as big as your words. Zhang Jun didn't say anything else. Everything depended on actual actions. At this time, Wu Hai took out a map and called everyone in front of him. Now that the team is complete and there are new members, I'll explain the situation in the city of Ancient God to everyone. The mutated beasts here are a little different from the ones on Earth. The weakest among them is rank A. Most of the mutated beasts on the first floor are Earth dragons, mainly Triceratops, thunder dragons, velociraptors, stegosaurus, plesiosaurs, pterosaurs, and so on. There's even a particularly powerful Tyrannosaurus. Their individual strengths are different. Among them, the mature ones have rank S strength, so we need to have a clear division of labor. Amming, we're looking for a spirit reader, mainly to borrow your flying ability. Your main task isn't to fight, but to attract and contain the mutated beasts. You have no problem with this, right? No problem. Lin Jun nodded. Chapter 278. The team arrived at the entrance of the city of Ancient Gods and paid the fee of 500 million. Of course, the fee was shared equally. The captain couldn't pay for it alone. After paying the fee, the team walked towards the entrance. The entrance was a huge metal door with a height of a few dozen meters and a width of nearly 100 meters. Not to mention a person, even a few airplanes could fly through it side by side. I have walked through this entrance 3 times recently, but every time I pass by it, I feel a sense of shock. How did the city of Ancient Gods appear? Wu Hai sighed. Yeah, it doesn't look like something from Earth. The environment inside is also very different from Earth. It feels like we have returned to the Jurassic era. Zhang Jun had also entered the city of Ancient Gods once, so he had some understanding of the place. In this team, Wu Hai was a veteran. Zhang Jun and Qin Huashang had also entered the city of Ancient Gods once, while Lin Jun and Luo Fei were newcomers. Qin Huashang was 5 or 6 years older than Lin Jun. She was a young married woman who was able to enter the 8th grade war god in her 20s. She could be considered a genius. Wu Hai, Luo Fei, and Luo Fei were already in their 30s. Lin Jun looked around the entrance. In his opinion, it should be a transport ship from an extraterrestrial civilization. There were some differences between a transport ship and a battleship. Although its power and configuration were far inferior to a battleship, the transport ship was extraordinarily large. At the entrance, Lin Jun saw the mark of a red rose. It was already very blurry. If it wasn't for his sharp eyes, he wouldn't have noticed it. This should be a second-grade interstellar battleship transport ship. It was 40,000 meters long, 20,000 meters wide, and 2,500 meters tall. It was relatively flat and could travel in the interstellar space for more than 100 years. There was an energy storage inside. If it was parked here, it wouldn't run out of energy even after 1,000 years. However, he did not know why the transport ship was here. Seeing that it was almost completely covered by sand, it proved that it had been here for a very long time. It had even turned into a sand mountain, which was why it had not been discovered. In front of the metal door was a small door. Wu Hai said, "The door here can't be opened." It took a lot of effort for people to open this small door. This is also to prevent the beasts from coming out. You should know that even the smallest velociraptor is several times bigger than a human. They can't come out from this small door. Wu Hai nodded. Then he said, "That's right." The few of them first walked past the yellow light curtain, which had quite a bit of resistance, and then went in through the small door. After entering, Lin Jun felt his vision suddenly become clear. At first, he wondered why no one thought it was a spaceship. The reason was that the scene inside was too different from the concept of spaceships on Earth. It was a vast space. The height of the sky was about 500 meters. There was even man-made sun and moon above. There were rivers, hills, grasslands, and trees on the ground. It was completely a small world. In the sky, pterosaurs with huge wings were soaring. Occasionally, loud beast roars could be heard from the ground. There were even shadows of beasts swaying in the dense forest. In a lake not far ahead, Lin Jun even saw a monster with a long neck float to the surface of the water, then sink back down. On the shore, there was a group of monsters with 3 horns on their heads drinking water. Not far from them, there was a group of relatively smaller monsters drinking water and looking around vigilantly from time to time. The ground suddenly shook. A huge monster with a height of 3 to 4 stories rushed out of the forest. Some of the smaller monsters immediately turned into birds and scattered. However, there was still a 3-horned monster that did not manage to escape. It was bitten to death by the huge monster. Everyone pay attention. This huge monster is called a Tyrannosaurus. It is the strongest monster on the first floor. It has already reached the peak of S rank. If we encounter it, we must avoid it as much as possible. In the previous few explorations, we failed when we were about to enter the second floor. This is because the entrance to the second floor is the nest of this monster. Wu Hai explained to everyone, the area of this world is not small. It is almost half the size of a normal bay city. Moreover, the technology here is very advanced. There is a strange energy that can attract water and solar energy from the outside world, creating an artificial sun and moon. It can even create artificial rain. Moreover, the plants here grow very fast. They can be eaten by the weak monsters. The weak monsters also grow fast and can be eaten by the big monsters. Luo Fei asked, then what? If there are too many Tyrannosaurus, will they eat all the small monsters in this world? No, that won't happen. When there are too many Tyrannosaurus, they will fight for territory and food. Then, some will get injured and some will die. The balance of the food chain will not be broken. Therefore, the ecological environment here will not worsen. After saying that, Wu Hai paused for a moment before continuing. Now, it won't get any worse because some warriors have entered. We warriors have become the enemies of these monsters. Of course, these monsters are also targets for us to hunt. All the monster crystals can be refined into a substance that can replace dark energy stones. We can slaughter as much as we want here, as long as you have the ability. Didn't you say there are astral weapons here? Luo Fei asked again. There are astral tools, but they cannot be found in the wilderness because all of the astral tools have been collected by these dragon beasts very quickly. These dragon beasts all like to collect some shiny things, so I will remind you now that weapons that are too shiny should not be taken out to show off. If by chance you are targeted by the dragon beasts, we will certainly be miserable. They all nodded. Qin Huashang even hid the necklace inside. Wu Hai looked at Lin Zhun's metal mask and hesitated for a moment before shaking his head. He could see that this was an astral weapon that defended against spiritual power. This was a life-saving item. He could not ask Lin Zhun to take it off. Let's go. We have to go around this big lake and make a big circle to reach the entrance to the second floor. If we encounter other warrior teams on the way, try not to get into a conflict. After all, our team is not strong enough. Luo Fei said, Brother Wu is already a quasi-star realm cultivator. Is this not enough? So what if he is a quasi-star realm cultivator? Some of the teams here are even made up of quasi-star realm experts who have been working together for many years. Even a quasi-star realm expert would have to take a detour if they encountered such a team. Our strength is nothing. Luo Fei sucked in a breath of cold air. How strong would a team made up of quasi-star realm experts be? Don't worry too much. Those teams are basically all active on the second floor. This place is still relatively safe. Let's go. They all took out their weapons. However, Lin Zhun did not take out his broken jade this time, nor did he take out his newly acquired 7-kill spear. Those were too conspicuous. He took out another astral weapon. It was a mid-grade astral weapon sword. The sword's name was Autumn Frost. It was not bad among mid-grade weapons. Lin Zhun had used a sword for a long time in his past life. His grasp of the way of the sword was not bad. However, at that time, he followed the crowd and practiced sword techniques. He didn't really have any real achievements. That was why he switched to his favorite spear in this life. However, he had actually reached the Star Realm. On the current Earth, his sword techniques were still decent. At least, it wouldn't be too embarrassing. Zhang Zhun glanced at Lin Jun's sword and laughed. Lin Jun, your weapon is a bit embarrassing. You're an advanced war god spirit reader. Is it that hard to get a high-grade astral weapon? Without waiting for Lin Jun to speak, Qin Huashang glared at Zhang Zhun. Zhang Zhun, don't always pick on Lin Jun. Little brother Lin Jun looks like a war god who secludes himself to train. He hasn't ventured out much. A high-grade astral weapon isn't cheap either. How can he get one so easily? Do you think everyone is like you, a daredevil who doesn't care about his life? They had all trained together and were quite familiar with each other. That was why Qin Huashang didn't have any scruples when speaking. Moreover, Lin Jun could see that Zhang Zhun seemed to be interested in Qin Huashang. However, Qin Huashang didn't give any response. Zhang Zhun spread his hands. I don't have any other intentions. Why are you so protective of this brat? I admit that he may be more handsome than me, but a lot of times, being handsome is useless. Huashang, you'll slowly understand how good I am. A warrior's strength is still important. Qin Huashang ignored Zhang Zhun. Instead, she said to Lin Jun, Lin Jun, don't be afraid. Your mission is to attract them. Use your flying ability to lure away the stronger dragons. Leave the fighting to us. If you really encounter danger, remember to hide behind me. I will protect you. Lin Jun rubbed his nose awkwardly. However, he realized that he rubbed the metal mask. He could only nod to Qin Huashang. Thank you for taking care of me, Sister Qin. However, I don't think it's necessary. Hee, don't be so polite with Sister Qin. We're a team now. Who knows how long we'll train together in the future. Don't be estranged. As she spoke, Qin Huashang patted Lin Jun's shoulder generously. She looked like a caring sister. Coupled with her beautiful appearance, ordinary men might be tempted. Zhang Zhun looked at Qin Huashang's actions and was a little angry. He glanced at Lin Jun. I hope you'll still be so proud when you encounter dragons. Lin Jun smiled. He didn't want to get involved in any inexplicable emotional conflict. However, if someone really wanted to harm him, then he would be wrong. After walking for a while, when they passed by the edge of a forest, Wu Hai suddenly waved his hand and the team stopped. There seemed to be a faint smell of blood in the air. Wu Hai's nose twitched a few times. Then, he listened carefully. His face suddenly changed. Be careful. There are dragons coming. The few of them held their breaths. They only heard a very rapid sound coming from the ground. It sounded like a herd of horses galloping. It's an A-rank exotic beast, Velociraptor. A large group. Everyone, prepare for battle. Chapter 279. Seeing these Velociraptors coming, Lin Jun did not appear to be very relaxed, nor did he appear to be very flustered. He just fought like a normal warrior who had encountered an attack, holding autumn frost in his hand. According to Lin Jun's current strength, he could basically kill one of these Velociraptors with a single sword strike, but he did not do so. He waved autumn frost in his hand, gradually remembering some of the sword techniques that he had almost forgotten in his previous life. He could kill a Velociraptor with about 3 or 4 attacks. Lin Jun often had to think carefully about things in his previous life, such as this city of ancient gods. Because he had not experienced it, he knew relatively little about it. In addition, 1,000 years had passed, and it was impossible to remember everything that happened 1,000 years ago. After killing a few Velociraptors, Lin Jun gradually recalled some information about the city of ancient gods. When the extraterrestrial civilization descended, the first place they came to was Central Asia. Once, an invader leader said in a public place, in fact, we did not care to conquer this backward planet. We first came to find a treasure on the Red Rose. Conquering this place is just a matter of convenience. Now that he thought about it carefully, Lin Jun gradually made sense of it. Thinking of the Red Rose symbol on the entrance hatch, Lin Jun figured out a lot of things. However, there were some things that he would never say. Only he knew. After Lin Jun killed 7 Velociraptors in a row, a larger red Velociraptor pounced on Zhang Zhun. Zhang Zhun thought it was an ordinary Velociraptor and was about to kill it with his sword, but the Velociraptor suddenly spat out a fireball, which immediately made Zhang Zhun flustered. Lin Jun was on Zhang Zhun's left at this time. He used his mind power to control the sword to attack the velociraptor, but the sword stabbed the velociraptors, causing the velociraptor to accelerate in pain. It fiercely swung its claws. Zhang Zhun had a hard time dealing with the fireball, and now he could not dodge in time. The velociraptor's claws scratched his waist. Fortunately, he was not injured because of the high-grade astral armor, but his face was still pale. Wu Hai rushed over and killed the velociraptor with 5 or 6 consecutive attacks. As the velociraptor fell, the wave of velociraptors was eliminated. Lin Jun only killed 5 of them, ranking last. Phew! This is the Velociraptor King, a quasi-S-rank mutant beast. It is indeed difficult to deal with it among ordinary velociraptors, and this one can even use fireball attacks. Zhang Zhun, you're lucky. Zhang Zhun hurriedly swallowed the medicine and glared at Lin Jun. You did it on purpose, didn't you? If it weren't for your random attacks, nothing would have happened to me. Lin Jun shrugged. This is the first time I've seen something like this. It's normal for my attacks to miss. If you think I did it on purpose, I'll definitely stand by and watch next time. You. Zhang Zhun looked at Lin Jun in surprise. Then, his surprise turned into anger. Kid, do you know what it means to respect your seniors? Don't tell me that you shouldn't be polite when speaking to the strong. Of course I know that, but I never thought that you were stronger than me. I'm not stronger than you. I killed 12 velociraptors, but you only killed 5. You're third in the team, but your performance can't even compare to a woman. What qualifications do you have to say you're stronger than me? Captain said that my main task is to distract the velociraptors. This kind of direct combat is not my main responsibility. If you think I'm not good enough, then find another spirit reader. You're so arrogant. Zhang Zhun was a little angry. Wu Hai scolded, what are you doing? Is this how a team member should behave? Zhang Zhun didn't dare refute Wu Hai. He snorted coldly and stopped talking, but he was obviously dissatisfied with Lin Jun. These velociraptors should be a group. Maybe they have a nest. Emming, come with me to see if there's anything good. You 3 collect these crystals. Lin Jun and Wu Hai walked into the depths of the forest, leaving Zhang Zhun and the other 2 to collect the crystals. Zhang Zhun's temper is like that. Don't take it to heart, Wu Hai said as he walked. I understand, but he better not continue to target me. Lin Jun responded. Okay, I'll tell him. Wu Hai looked at Lin Jun. He felt that this Lin Jun seemed familiar, but he couldn't remember where he had seen this person. After a while, the 2 found a velociraptor nest in a huge cave. There's something here. Wu Hai's eyes lit up as he ran to the end of the cave. There were about a dozen or so astral tools piled up here. One of them was a high-grade sword, while the rest were all middle and low-grade. In addition, there were also some gold and jeweler-type things. He did not know where these velociraptors had obtained them. Lin Jun walked to the front of the pile of items and picked up a round object to examine. It was something that looked like a silver coin, but there was a galaxy pattern on it. The metal material was unclear, and there were even some golden coins among it. Wu Hai said, I've already found a lot of similar things here. Many people have also collected some. However, these things aren't gold or silver, nor do they contain any kind of power. They seem to be some kind of ornament or bargaining chip. If you want, you can take them. Zhao Hai nodded and said, I've already found a lot of similar things here. Lin Jun nodded. He raised his hand and collected all the silver coins. Others didn't know, but he knew. This was the currency of the extraterrestrial civilization. After Earth was conquered, humans faced a great migration. The currency was also shared with the extraterrestrial civilization. Although this silver coin looked unremarkable, it was made of interstellar mithril. The coins on Earth were all useless in the later period. The wealth of the people on Earth was all converted into this kind of currency. This silver coin was $1 in the interstellar, but if it was exchanged with Earth's currency, 1 million would be exchanged for 1 silver coin. In the pile that Lin Jun collected, there were about 500 to 600 silver coins and more than a dozen gold coins. The gold coins were even more expensive. 100 million Earth's currency could be exchanged for 1, which was equivalent to $100 in the interstellar. Lin Jun also knew that there were crystal coins above gold and silver coins. Those were the truly valuable things. Wu Hai handed over the high-grade astral artifact, long sword, to Lin Jun. This is for you. Looking at your sword, it really is a bit outdated. Everyone in the team is equipped with high-grade astral artifacts, and I have a best-grade astral artifact. You can't be too bad. Thank you, Captain. Lin Jun didn't hesitate to take the long sword and put away his shabby autumn frost. It must be said that Lin Jun didn't have any good equipment other than a mask that couldn't be seen. He only had a mid-grade sword, high-grade software, and mid-grade shoes. It didn't match his identity as an advanced war god spirit reader. With the harvest, the two returned to the team. Because Lin Jun obtained the high-grade astral tool sword, he didn't get a share in the distribution this time. He even got less crystals. Lin Jun saw Zhang Jun collect the Speed Dragon King's crystal. Lin Jun also had a lot of quasi-S-grade crystals. They were all white anacondas from the 5 Dalian pools. However, the one that Zhang Jun collected was red and contained fire energy. This was a bit rare. Other warriors weren't like Lin Jun, who had the dark star in his body and could control many types of elemental energy. Normal warriors could only control one type. Some of the more talented warriors might have the ability to control 2 types of energy. However, there were almost no people who could control 3 types. Many people couldn't even control one in their entire life. If one wanted to control elemental energy, they could only do it before condensing a star core. Once the Dantian condensed a star core and star power appeared, it would start to reject other types of energy. Therefore, if one wanted to control elemental energy, they had to do it before entering the star realm. This kind of fire crystal had elemental energy. No wonder Wu Hai and Zhang Jun both had elemental energy. Lin Jun looked at the high-grade astral tool sword in his hand and sneered in his heart. Wu Hai was still on Zhang Jun's side. He gave him a piece of elemental crystal just like that. This high-grade astral tool sword was used to shut his mouth. Now that they were in the city of ancient gods, Lin Jun couldn't expose his whereabouts for the time being. Once his information was leaked, Liao would definitely follow him. Unless he left the team and acted alone, the possibility of him being exposed would be smaller. However, if he left right after entering, it would attract even more attention. Lin Jun was waiting for an opportunity. However, before that, Lin Jun didn't want to lose out. Seeing this, he said to Wu Hai, "Captain, I think we should use the same distribution system for the ordinary spoils of war. However, for some of the better spoils of war, shouldn't we use a different method so that everyone has a chance to obtain them?" Hearing Lin Jun's words, Luo Fei and Qin Huashang nodded. Otherwise, if this continued, Wu Hai and Zhang Jun would share the good things. What method? Wu Hai asked. Dice competition. Hearing Lin Jun's words, Wu Hai thought for a moment. Seeing that Luo Fei and Qin Huashang also agreed, he couldn't help but nod. Then we'll follow your method. For these elemental crystals, let's use the dice competition method. Dice competition was a dice with 3 dice. The one with the most points would win. Many warriors had something like this. After Wu Hai finished speaking, he took out a transparent box with 3 dice inside. I also have this thing here. This crystal cover can prevent Dark Gold stage mental power from entering and can prevent Spirit Reader Masters from cheating. Zhang Jun, take out the crystal. Everyone will first give you a low-grade astral weapon as compensation. Everyone will use the dice to decide who gets the crystal. Zhang Jun took out the crystal very unwillingly. Then, he said to Lin Jun, "Anming, since you suggested it, shouldn't you also take out your high-grade astral weapon sword?" Lin Jun simply took out his sword. The middle-grade sword he used was similar to a high-grade sword. A middle-grade sword could reach the level of high-grade if it was infused with gold energy. If a high-grade sword was infused with gold energy, it would be too eye-catching. All 5 of them agreed to participate in the dice competition. The first one to compete was the flame crystal. Wu Hai, as the captain, pressed the eject button on the box. The 3 dice jumped for a while. One was a 1, one was a 2, and one was a 6. 9 points. It seems that there is not much hope. Luo Fei took it and ejected it. 2 2s and 1 3. 7 points was out of the question. Qin Huashang took it and ejected it. 1, 2, 3, 6. She helplessly spread out her hands. I have no chance. Zhang Jun took it and ejected it. The dice jumped for a while. 4, 5, 6, 15 points. Huh. It belongs to whoever it belongs to. This is fate. Lin Jun finally took the box. That's not necessarily true. Maybe I will throw 3 sixes. Stop bragging. Even a dark gold stage spirit reader can't cheat. You're just a gold stage spirit reader. How can you be so lucky to surpass me? Zhang Jun was very disdainful. Lin Jun smiled. My luck has always been good. As he spoke, he shook it. They all watched attentively. First, it stopped at 6, then stopped at 5. Little. Zhang Jun excitedly shouted. Chapter 280. Lin Jun successfully took the flame crystal. Zhang Jun looked at Lin Jun and was a little annoyed. He shouted, You're lucky this time. I don't believe that your luck will be so good every time. Come, let's compete for this high-grade astral tool sword again. This time, Aming, you go first. Lin Jun didn't hold back. He flicked the dice, and the result was 1337. Zhang Jun immediately laughed. You're finished. You have no chance this time. Lin Jun ignored him and passed the box to the next person. The next person was Wu Hai. In the end, he rolled a 1, 2, 3, which wasn't as good as Lin Jun. After that, Luo Fei was even worse. He rolled a 1, 2, 2, 5, and then Qin Huashang rolled a 2, 3, 3, and 8. Zhang Jun finally felt a little better. He thought that he could finally get something this time. The value of a high-grade astral tool was still not bad. After he confidently flicked the dice, the last 3 dice actually stopped at 1, 1, 2, and 4. F*CK. What kind of luck is this? Zhang Jun was very annoyed. He couldn't even win like this. The high-grade astral tool belonged to Qin Huashang. Qin Huashang was also very happy. However, she didn't know that Lin Jun deliberately let her win as a reward for protecting Lin Jun. Lin Jun put away the crystal after he obtained it. The dark star in his body already had the power of fire. This flame crystal could only be regarded as icing on the cake. Lin Jun had an idea. He had to master at least 7 elemental powers before he entered the Star Realm and infuse all of them into the 7-star saber. Otherwise, he wouldn't have the chance to infuse the 7-star saber after he entered the Star Realm. Currently, he had already filled the blade with light, electricity, and metal, the 3 most difficult elemental powers to obtain. At the same time, he also had cold and fire. He still needed 2 types of elemental power in the Dark Star. What Lin Jun wanted was the wind and earth elements. As long as he has these elements, then the dark star inside his body would become a real planet. However, completing the resonance of 7 elemental energies before reaching the Star Realm was something that no one had ever attempted before. Lin Jun didn't know what his Dantian would look like when the time came. In the next 3 days, the few of them had been slowly advancing on the first floor, but they did not obtain a single elemental crystal. However, they had competed 4 times, and all of them were high-grade astral tools. Except for Zhang Jun. Everyone else had won once, which made Zhang Jun so angry that he stomped his feet. When he had some free time, Lin Jun would use the crystals to concoct potions to increase the Dantian's chi. His Dantian's chi was slowly advancing towards the late 7th grade war god. Outside the ancient god ruins, Liao had been here for a few days. However, when he first arrived, he couldn't find any trace of Lin Jun. Although Lin Jun had left the Ice City with the Black Spectre, he was wearing a metal mask. He didn't use his original name, so no one knew that Lin Jun had come here. Liao had been here for 2 days, but he couldn't find anything. In the end, he had no choice but to use a stupid method, which was to check the members of the team one by one to see if anyone was wearing a mask. In order to achieve this goal, he had spent more than 1 billion gold coins and spent 7 days. In the end, he found 12 masked people who had entered the city of Ancient God. Holding the list in his hand, Liao gritted his teeth and said, Lin Jun, you better not die in the city of Ancient God. That would be too boring. He knew that it wasn't easy to check these 12 people, and he might offend a lot of people. However, as long as he could get rid of Lin Jun, everything would be worth it. While Lin Jun was still exploring the city of Ancient God, and Liao was still looking for the list. On the 4th floor of the City of Ancient God, there was a staircase at the end of the 4th floor. That was the room where the captain of the Red Rose, Xu Mingxian, was. Wearing his old captain's uniform, Xu Mingxian looked at the giant man in front of him. Holliff stood in front of Xu Mingxian with red eyes, and there was a trace of excitement on his face. It's rare that a person controlled by a brainworm can still have such a strong desire for revenge. Holliff, do you want to kill Lin Jun so much? Yes, master. Lin Jun has ruined everything for me. I can't even go back to Russia now. Everyone knows that my breakthrough is abnormal. If I appear rashly, I will definitely be hunted down by those Star Realm Masters. Moreover, I'm not confident that I can defeat Lin Jun now. I hope that master can give me more power. Xu Mingxian shook his head slightly. I'm not a god, so I can't really give you power. However, from what I see, you are very suitable to be a super soldier. I do need someone to take my place in the outside world. How about this? I will modify your body first, so that your body's flexibility will be greatly improved. Your speed will be at least 10 times faster than it is now. Hearing this, Holliff's eyes lit up. What he lacked the most was speed. He was not afraid of spirit readers and had immense strength. However, speed was his fatal weakness. If this weakness was removed, his strength would increase exponentially. Xu Mingxian brought Holliff to the inner part of his room. There was a huge glass jar here that was 3 meters tall. Letting Holliff enter, Xu Mingxian inserted many tubes into his body and injected a large amount of nutrient solution until he was completely submerged. He then got a lot of mutant beast geno fluids and mixed them in, each of them increasing agility. However, there's also a poisonous substance that dissolved in the water. Seeing Holliff slowly closing his eyes under the influence of the poison, Xu Mingxian laughed coldly. Although you can greatly increase your agility, you will also pay a heavy price. Your soul will dissipate, and I will be able to infuse my spirit into your soul, and you will become a clone of mine. Ha ha ha. Once the transformation is complete, I will be able to leave this place without any danger. Great, this Holliff's body is so strong. After the transformation, his combat power will increase greatly. The food, the beautiful women, and everything else, I, Xu Mingxian, will be able to come out. Xu Mingxian was very happy. After staying here for so many years, he did not dare to go out. If he was caught by the people of Earth, he would be in trouble, so he did not dare to go out. He believed that the Empire would definitely come looking for him, because his spaceship carried a treasure. The Empire would definitely take this treasure back, so he did not dare to take the risk of leaving the spaceship. If there was a problem with the treasure, he would definitely be dead. A few days ago, he finally received news from an exploration spaceship that the Empire had sent people to look for him. Since it had been discovered, it would only take a few years for the Empire's army to arrive. The people on the exploration spaceship had no right to command him, and they did not even know about the existence of the treasure. They were just following orders to search for it. In other words, Xu Mingxian still had about 3 to 4 years of free time. His original body would stay here to guard the Red Rose. So he decided to completely transform Holliff and make him his doppelganger to move around the world. Originally, he had hoped to transform Lin Jun because Lin Jun was stronger and had greater potential, so he had a higher chance of winning the War God Arena. There was even one point, Lin Jun's thing was bigger than Holliff's. Although Holliff's was already very strong, Lin Jun was talented and would feel more comfortable using it. Moreover, Lin Jun had 2 beautiful girlfriends. If he could refine Lin Jun into his doppelganger, it would be very satisfying. However, it was a pity that the brainworm had failed. Xu Mingxian had no choice but to settle for the next best thing, and finally chose Holliff. Holliff had entered the Star Realm, but he was still defeated by Lin Jun in the War God Arena. This made Xu Mingxian very angry. After summoning Holliff, he decided to completely erase this person's soul and will and refine him into his doppelganger. Now that the refining had finally begun, Xu Mingxian was looking forward to the moment of success. Roar, roar! A huge hammer dragon roared and rushed out from the forest. It opened its mouth and spat out a huge wind blade. Immediately, a large patch of grass and trees were cut down, and the team members quickly dodged. In the sky, there were two pterosaurs circling, ready to attack at any time. Aiming. Attract the attention of those two pterosaurs. The rest of you, work with me to kill this hammer dragon. This is an S-rank mutated beast. Lin Jun stepped on a shield and rose into the sky. In order to hide his identity, he didn't even wear a cloud step. He only stepped on a low-grade astral tool shield as a carrier. The two quasi-S-rank pterosaurs chased after Lin Jun. Lin Jun didn't need to move too fast to deal with these two pterosaurs in the sky. Below, Wu Hai and the others worked together to attack. After all, Wu Hai was a quasi-star realm expert. With the cooperation of the others, he used rock spikes several times and pierced through the hammer dragon's abdomen. The hammer dragon struggled and smashed its thick tail. Together with a wind blade, it actually heavily injured Zhang Jun, who was greedy for merit, causing him to vomit blood. Taking advantage of this opportunity, the others rushed forward and finally killed this S-rank mutated beast. At this time, Lin Jun finally killed a pterosaur and dived down with another one. Luo Fei and Qin Huashang immediately cooperated and killed this pterosaur. Leader, give this hammer dragon's crystal to me. I'm a wind elemental. With this crystal, I can use it to break through. Let's not compete this time. The reason why Zhang Jun worked so hard was to get this wind elemental crystal. However, the others also wanted it. Why should the good stuff be yours? Therefore, Lin Jun and the others unanimously opposed. Wu Hai still agreed to everyone's request to compete. Zhang Jun helplessly grabbed the box. I'll go first. I'll lose anyway. Lin Jun didn't bother him. He thought that it would be fine as long as he surpassed him in the end. However, he didn't expect Zhang Jun to hit 3 sixes this time. Waha, I'm finally lucky. This S-rank wind elemental crystal is mine. Let's see who can take it away from me this time. Wu Hai, Luo Fei, and Qin Huashang all gave up. Just as Zhang Jun was about to collect the crystal, Lin Jun asked again, Leader, what if two people have the same number? Chapter 281. Okay, since there's overtime, I'll give it a try. When Lin Jun said this, Zhang Jun was still a little disdainful. Tisk, have you ever been to school? Do you know the probability of getting 3 sixes out of 3 dice? Do you know the probability of getting 3 sixes in a row? This isn't a casino. Cheating is useless. I advise you to give up. I know, the probability is so small that it can be ignored, but I just want to try. Try it. You won't cry until you see the coffin. Zhang Jun looked like he was watching a good show. When Lin Jun picked up the dice, Qin Huashang said to Lin Jun, Little brother, I think you can do it. If you really get 3 sixes, I'll let you kiss me. Lin Jun smiled and threw the dice, but he only got 2, 3, 5, and 10. After throwing the dice, Lin Jun sighed. It's still impossible to get 3 sixes. Seeing Lin Jun fail, the others didn't look surprised. Zhang Jun even sneered for a while and proudly took the wind element crystal. After killing the hammer dragon, they didn't just get the wind element crystal, there were also some things collected by the hammer dragon. Among them were a lot of strange coins, a few astral tools, and a few meteorites. Let's continue with the dice. After getting the wind element crystal, Zhang Jun's confidence increased greatly. The others also took out the remaining good things. After that, Zhang Jun's luck was off the charts. He got a lot of points for the astral tools in a row. The lowest point was 4, 6, and the others couldn't raise their heads. Every dog has its day. Today, I'm going to be rich. After winning 2 dark energy stones, Zhang Jun won a top-grade astral tool longsword. He was very proud. There was one last thing, a meteorite. Wu Hai picked it up and looked at it. I thought it was something good. Isn't this just a space stone? It's a material to make a spatial ring. Zhang Jun also took it and looked at it. It seems different. There seems to be 2 connected spaces inside. It's really strange that there would be such a thing. Wu Hai also nodded. These 2 spaces aren't big, so they can only be used to make small interspatial rings. Also, can you make interspatial rings successfully? Whatever. Since it's a meteorite, it should be of some use. Let's compete. They began to compete. Lin Jun, who hadn't won even once, seemed to be a little anxious. He picked up the box and shot first. As a result, he hit 3 sixes on his first try. Seeing this situation, the others simply gave up. After all, it was not a good thing. Only Zhang Jun didn't seem to be convinced and threw again. In the end, he only got 9 points. TSK. So what if I give you a trash meteorite? The good stuff is all mine anyway. Zhang Jun showed off his top-grade astral tool, wind element crystal, and dark energy stone. The others also gained something. Only Lin Jun got a useless meteorite. Wu Hai came over and patted Lin Jun's shoulder. Brother, don't be too disappointed. Finding a crystal here is not too difficult. As long as you are willing to put in some effort, you will still gain something. Lin Jun smiled. It's okay. I didn't take it to heart. The dice competition was over. The team started to move forward. Wu Hai took out a walkie-talkie and talked to someone. There was no cell phone signal in the city of Ancient God, but Wu Hai had a walkie-talkie in his hand. It could be used to communicate with other teams in the city of Ancient God. It seemed that there were a few teams going to explore the Tyrannosaurus nest. It was said that there was something good there. That night, the team set up camp in the forest. Lin Jun took out the meteorite from his tent. Looking at it, his heart was secretly excited. Space netherstone. I didn't expect to find a space netherstone here. The appearance of this thing is too beneficial for me. These days, Lin Jun was a little uneasy. He felt that some danger was approaching him. Now, only Star Realm experts could be considered a threat to Lin Jun. He reckoned that Li Yao might be chasing after him. Lin Jun entered the city of Ancient God wearing a mask. Li Yao couldn't find him immediately, but as long as he continued to investigate, he would find out sooner or later. These teammates weren't so trustworthy. Lin Jun trusted his own strength the most. After killing the hammer dragon and seeing the spoils of war, Lin Jun took a fancy to this set life meteorite. In order to avoid suspicion, he even gave up on the wind crystal that he needed. After all, it wasn't difficult to find an energy crystal in the city of Ancient Gods. However, this set life meteorite was almost unique in the world. This thing should have been brought by one of Red Rose's crew members. It was probably used as a plaything, and now it was collected by Hammer Dragon. His mind power sank into the space netherstone. The two small spaces inside were almost intertwined, but they were not connected to each other. This situation was extremely rare. It was like two parallel spaces. This was the result of two space netherstones from different spaces coming into contact with each other. There were not many space netherstones in the first place, and the chance of meeting another space netherstone from another space was tens of billions of times smaller than winning the lottery. If this thing was obtained by others, it would be useless. After all, they didn't master the power of space. Holding this thing was useless. However, this thing was obtained by Lin Jun. It was a priceless treasure. The two spaces are fused but not connected to each other, resulting in some strange phenomena in the meteorite. As long as my spiritual force can fuse the two spaces, then I will be able to learn a magical skill, the space folding technique. This was also something that Lin Jun had heard about in Interstellar in his previous life. In his previous life, when an extraterrestrial civilization invaded, a powerful leader of the invaders also made a name for himself in the Interstellar because he had a magical skill, space folding. Using the principle of the intersection of space and time between the two spaces, he could create a small space in the current world that could accommodate him. It was just like a parallel world. It was clearly beside you, but you couldn't see, hear, or touch it. Lin Jun's current strength was not enough to fight against a Star Realm expert, so this method was very useful for him. As long as he mastered space folding, he could hide anywhere without being discovered. Moreover, when he mastered the power of space to a high level, he could even use super battle skills like space slicing or space collapsing. Of course, Lin Jun was still very far away from that. Because he had absorbed space star crystals, learning space folding was not too difficult for him. Lin Jun, who liked to read all kinds of strange stories in his previous life, had a lot of knowledge that could be put to use now. After setting up the tent, Lin Jun first placed the space nether stone in front of his lower abdomen. He wrapped it with his mind power and let it seep into the space nether stone. As his mind power seeped in, Lin Jun immediately enters space. The space was not big, but it was strangely twisting. It was like paint being dropped into water, and then the water rippled. There was no pattern to be found. This is really like a mirrored world. I can feel the power of space resonating with my own power of space. But how do I integrate the two spaces into my body? Lin Jun began to release his mind power. This space was very small, and his mind power could easily wrap around it. However, there was a difficulty, and that was the restraint of the other space. Lin Jun was unable to absorb this space into his dantian. Lin Jun tried for a while, then gave up. He then let his mind power seep into the other space. This space was basically the same size as the other space. It was also strangely twisting, so Lin Jun could see it but could not capture it. After releasing the power of space in his body, Lin Jun could easily resonate with the power of space in any space. However, it was impossible to resonate with two spaces at the same time. After trying for 3 to 4 hours, Lin Jun still failed. Finally, he stopped his futile actions. The two spaces are connected, but not fused. Unless there are two of me, two mental powers seeping in at the same time. But how is that possible? Lin Jun smiled bitterly, as if he had taken it for granted. Right, Dark Star. Just as he was about to give up, his eyes suddenly lit up. I can place my mind power in my dantian. Something like the Dark Star should not exist. I can also place my mind power on the Dark Star. A stream of mind power can enter a space and then instantly transfer to the Dark Star. The transformation of space requires a very small amount of time. As long as my speed is fast enough, I might be able to succeed. Lin Jun did what he wanted to do. He poured a stream of mind power into the Dark Star, then poured it into another space. The withdrawal of mind power did not mean that it would dissipate immediately. It would take about 1,000th of a second for it to dissipate. What Lin Jun needed to do was to return his mind to the Dark Star in that 1,000th of a second. Then, he would pour the mind power from the Dark Star into another space. As long as he could complete this task in 1,000th of a second, he would have the chance to resonate with two spaces at the same time. Shua! The mind power was withdrawn, and the power of the Dark Star poured in. By the time the mind power from the Dark Star entered the second space, the power of the first space had already dissipated. No, it's still too slow. This time, it actually took about 1/50th of a second. I need to familiarize myself with the steps and compress the time. I must complete it within 1,000th of a second. Lin Jun went through all the details in his mind and began his second attempt. Shua! Withdrawing his mind power, the energy from the Dark Star poured in. It was still a failure. Failure was within his expectations. However, Lin Jun was more concerned about the time he used. This time, he used about 1/80th of a second. There's some progress. I feel that I still have a lot of room for improvement. I need to think about it carefully and strive for a bigger improvement. Chapter 282. Phew, I've improved a lot, but there's still a long way to go to reach 1,000th of a second. I'll try to cultivate for a few more days. Lin Jun got up and walked out of the tent. After being transformed by the Tyrant Stone, he could hear some sounds that others couldn't hear. Wu Hai was talking through a walkie-talkie in his tent. What? Sacred artifact? Tyrannosaurus nest? Okay, mask it shouldn't be. I'll observe. There are some intermittent voices as well as some strange noises coming one after another. Lin Jun went back to his tent to rest for a while. When the sky was almost bright, Wu Hai asked everyone to continue moving forward. Wu Hai thought that everything was fine and said, "Let's speed up. There's a Tyrannosaurus nest on the other side of the entrance to the second floor. We'll try to reach there in 2 days and explore the nest. There have been several groups of martial artists who have come here without success. As long as we can gain something from the nest, even if we can't enter the second floor, it'll be worth it." The group continued to move forward. Qin Huashang came to Lin Jun's side and said, "Little brother, we're going to explore the Tyrannosaurus nest. I believe you'll gain a lot." Lin Jun asked Qin Huashang curiously, "Why do you always call me little brother?" Qin Huashang lowered her beautiful eyebrows slightly and said, "Don't be angry if I tell you." "Of course not." Qin Huashang then whispered to Lin Jun, I think you look a little like someone. Like who? My idol, Lin Jun. Lin Jun was stunned when he heard Qin Huashang's words. He glanced at Qin Huashang and saw that she seemed a little shy. Oh, it's Lin Jun. That person seems to be about the same size as me. Yeah, I like him a lot. I've been paying attention to him ever since he defeated the Russian generals in live phone. I wasn't married at that time, and I even dreamed of marrying him. Unfortunately, I got married in the end. What about Sister Qin's husband? Lin Jun didn't expect this beautiful young woman to be his fan, so he was interested in talking to her. He died on the day of our wedding. He died in battle when he went to help his warrior friend. Qin Huashang sounded a little depressed when she said this. Then you should find another one. Forget it. I don't want to think about this problem right now. I've collected all the highlights of Lin Jun, and I'll take them out when I'm free. However, Lin Jun is too far away from me. I might stop at the quasi-star realm for the rest of my life. Lin Jun is destined to soar into the sky, but when I look at you, I feel that you're very similar to him. I'm familiar with everything about him. Your silhouette and charm are almost the same as his. Lin Jun smiled and didn't say anything. He thought that this woman's observation skills were really scary. Qin Huashang continued, sometimes I think that even if Lin Jun is not my husband, I can still hug him openly. If he's in a good mood, he can also hug me. If he can really hug me once, then I can die without regrets. Lin Jun smiled as he looked at this woman who was obviously over the age of dreaming, but still loved to dream. Along the way, Qin Huashang showed him the pictures of herself. This is a picture of him defeating the Russian martial artist. Look at how young and cute he was. This is when he came down from the Jiaodong building in Jiaodong. I saw him stepping on that crow. His eyes were shining. From then on, I was sure that I fell in love with him. And this is the War God Arena qualifier. That's the blade he used when he defeated Holov. So cool. This is when he was interviewed on TV. He said that he took out 600 billion to build the city wall of Ice City. Lin Jun kept looking at his past. Even he didn't collect this information. He didn't expect this woman to have it all. Actually, I shouldn't have come to the ancient god ruins. Wu Hai said that he wanted to explore the T-Rex's nest and go to the second floor. My strength is not enough, but I really have nothing to do. If there is nothing to stimulate me in life, I think I might die because of missing Lin Jun. So I came here. I didn't expect to meet you. Although you are not Lin Jun, I feel that you are quite close to me. I don't dislike you at all. That's why I'm willing to treat you well. Lin Jun glanced at Qin Huashang. Sister Qin, don't tell me you want to use me as a substitute for Lin Jun. Hee, then are you willing? Anming, if we both survive, can you replace Lin Jun and accompany me once? Lin Jun looked at Qin Huashang in surprise. Unexpectedly, Qin Huashang suddenly laughed and said, I'm just teasing you. Look at how scared you are. I'm not such a casual person. Even if you want me, I don't want you. Oomph. As she spoke, Qin Huashang rolled her eyes at Lin Jun. It was really a bit flirtatious. Lin Jun seemed to be stunned for a moment. I really envy the person called Lin Jun. How good would it be if I were him? In the next 3 days, Qin Huashang liked to chat with Lin Jun when she had nothing to do. She talked about life, dreams, and even the future. She talked about her admiration for Lin Jun. In addition to being jealous of her, Lin Jun sometimes seemed to be very unhappy. Whenever Qin Huashang talked to him about her, Lin Jun ignored her and looked jealous. The first day was fine. From the second day onwards, Qin Huashang gradually stopped talking to Lin Jun about this issue. The relationship between the two gradually became cold. At night, Lin Jun would continue his space folding method. On the first night, Lin Jun's progress was still fast, and he completed it in 1/67th of a second. On the second night, it was slightly slower. Lin Jun improved to 1/850th of a second, which was not far from 1/1000th of a second. On the third night, Lin Jun directly improved to 1/99th of a second, but he was always a little bit away from 1/1000th of a second. What I need now is to increase my strength bit by bit. Since I came here, I haven't had a chance to cultivate. Perhaps if I meditate for a few more times, it would be best if I could use an S-class crystal. Then, I would be able to complete the transformation in 1,000th of a second. Unfortunately, I don't have an S-class crystal in hand right now. If I could use a quasi-S-class crystal, it would also work, but it would take a lot of time. I'm afraid I don't have that much time. Zhang Tai nodded. On the morning of the fourth day, the team finally arrived in front of a mountain. The mountain was very high, almost reaching the ceiling of the first floor. There was a metal door at the top, which was the entrance to the second floor. However, there was a pterosaur nest nearby. Many pterosaurs were circling the top of the mountain. It would not be easy to get there. Several teams had already gathered at the foot of the mountain. It seemed that they were all preparing to explore the pterosaur nest. We're late. There are already many teams here, Qin Huashang said. Wu Hai shook his head. It's not too late. These teams haven't entered yet. This Tyrannosaurus nest isn't a place where a single team can explore. I came here hoping to unite with the other teams. Seeing Wu Hai's team coming over, a team from the European Union whistled. Another team has come. Another team that heard about the sacred tool and wants a share of the pie. Luo Fei was stunned. What sacred tool is he talking about? Zhang Zhun said coldly. In the past few days, some people have said that there is a sacred tool in the pterosaur nest. A sacred tool is a level higher than a top-grade astral tool. Who knows if it's true or not? However, the Star Realm experts that came here basically went to explore the second floor. There are no Star Realm experts on the first floor. If there really is a sacred tool, it depends on which team can get it. Lin Jun didn't ask any more questions. The reason why he came to the pterosaur nest and didn't leave was because of the sacred tool. Of course, he knew about sacred tools. Astral tools were known as standard weapons in the galaxy. They were products of the assembly line. Only sacred tools were used by experts. The strongest weapon Lin Jun used in his previous life was a low-grade sacred tool sword. If he wanted to fight against a Star Realm expert in this life, a sacred tool was absolutely necessary. Wu Hai walked over and started chatting with the several captains. There were 3 teams in total. One of them was from India, one from the African Union, and one from the European Union. The strength of each team was about the same as Wu Hai's. A quasi-Star Realm expert led the team, followed by several 9th and 8th level war gods. Each team also had a telekinesis master. However, Lin Jun on Wu Hai's team seemed a little weaker. He was a 7th level war god and a telekinesis master in the late gold stage. The other teams were all 9th level war gods. 2 of them were at the peak of the gold stage, and one was at the beginning of the dark gold stage. The leader of the African Union team even knew Wu Hai. When he saw Wu Hai come over, he greeted him. Wu, you're finally here. Arbola, you haven't gone to the second floor yet? Haven't you been here for a month? Yes, but Wu, you have to know that the second floor is not that easy to reach. I have already seen 3 teams pass through the top of the mountain to reach the second floor. In the end, none of them lasted for a day. They all retreated very quickly. One team had 2 people left, and the other only had 1 person left. It's that dangerous? Wu Hai was stunned. He had always wanted to go to the second floor. They're all quasi-Star Realm experts. They can only keep to the side. Don't you think it's dangerous? That's the world of the Star Realm. Arbola spread her hands. Wu Hai was a little depressed when he heard this. Then have you entered the pterosaur nest? We have, but the cave is very deep. We've gone in a few times, but we didn't go very far before we came out. Moreover, we've always suffered heavy casualties. Our current team is just a temporary team. We're going to go in when we have more people. Chapter 283. Wait, we're not strong enough. Let's wait for the one-eyed man's team to arrive, then we'll go in together, the Indian team leader said. One-eyed man. Wu Hai's expression changed when he heard this name. Wu Hai had been in the city of ancient gods for a long time, so he had some understanding of the quasi-Star Realm experts. The one-eyed man was very famous among the quasi-Star Realm experts. His name was Chai Dev, and he was a warrior from Russia. It was said that he was Holof's previous student from the Siberian training camp. He was also the champion of that training camp. Before Holof reached the quasi-Star Realm, he was already a quasi-Star Realm expert. At that time, he was the strongest person under the quasi-Star Realm in Russia. However, Holof's situation was abnormal. He suddenly reached the quasi-Star Realm and surpassed him. He also had an assistant called Warsaw, who was the runner-up of that Siberian training camp. These two people could be considered the best among the quasi-star realm experts. Moreover, the one-eyed man was vicious and merciless. He would easily hurt people if he didn't agree with him. During this time, more than 10 warriors had died at his hands. Wu Hai didn't expect to work with such a person. He didn't feel confident. At this time, there was a sudden burst of laughter. Ha ha! All of you who are just bystanders haven't dared to go in yet. That's fine too. In a while, all of you can follow behind me and cheer. He's here. The Indian team leader pointed in that direction. A 5-man team from Russia was walking over. Lin Jun didn't look back at the Russian team. Instead, he looked down at the compass in his hand. 2 black dots that weren't too dark appeared on the compass. These were the colors of the quasi-star realm experts. He looked back at the Russian team. 2 of them were quasi-star realm experts. One of them wasn't very tall, but he wore an eye patch. He looked very fierce, and his yellow hair was loose. He held a long sword in his hand, and his aura was stronger than the other quasi-star realm experts. He also had a quasi-star realm spirit beside him. Lin Jun felt that his quasi-star realm spirit wasn't much weaker than his own. Lin Jun did not know these 2 people. Lin Jun only recognized the 3 people behind them. They were actually the 3 Russian warriors from the war god arena. Kip, Lancelot, Adolf. These 3 people had been eliminated by Lin Jun in the preliminaries of the war god arena. Now that they had not seen each other for more than 3 months, all 3 of them had reached the peak of the 9th level. It seemed that they were not far from advancing to the quasi-star realm. As soon as this team appeared, they immediately outshone the other teams here. The Indian team leader went over and greeted the one-eyed man. For you fellows to be able to come here, you must have heard about the news of the sacred artifact. I have also heard about it. However, I'm not in a hurry. Not just anyone can obtain a sacred artifact. As expected, none of you managed to obtain one. Now it's up to me. It's up to me. These teams were mocked by the one-eyed man. Qin Huashang could not help but say, Mr. Chaidev, since you are so powerful, you can enter as a team. We will not follow you. The one-eyed man Chaidev's single eye flashed fiercely. He looked at Qin Huashang and was stunned for a moment. Then, he sneered and said, Woman from China, do you know who you are talking to? I'm talking to you. Can't you hear me? Qin Huashang was also foolish and bold. She was not afraid of the one-eyed man. Hee, seeing that you are a beautiful woman, I will remember this and not bicker with you. However, I think your team leader will definitely not agree. Now, my team is going to enter the Tyrannosaurus nest with the Indian team. If anyone is willing to go with me, I will give them a mouthful of soup. If not, then they are my enemies. I will kill them first, even if I don't kill the Tyrannosaurus. As he spoke, Chaidev looked at the European team. Do you plan to go in? The European team also knew Chaidev. The team leader was obviously more afraid of him. He hurriedly nodded. We're willing to go in with you. Chaidev nodded with satisfaction. Then, he looked at the African Alliance team. What about you? The African Alliance team members looked at each other. They knew that they had no choice but to agree at this time. Chaidev was a person who would turn hostile at a moment's notice. It was better not to offend him. So, they nodded in agreement. Haha, very good. Now it's just you. Team from China, whether you want to be my enemy or my teammate, it's up to you. After Chaidev finished speaking, the spirit reader Warsaw behind him also took a step forward. The 2 quasi-star states stood side by side. The threat was very obvious. At this moment, Wu Hai had no other choice. He didn't expect things to come to this point. He nodded helplessly. All right, we'll join. Very good. This is the choice a smart person should make. In that case, I'll assign the tasks. Our team will be in the middle, then the Indian team will lead the way. I'll be responsible for supporting you. The EU team will be on the left, and the AU team will be on the right. You guys will block the attacks from the left and right, and the Chinese team will be responsible for covering the rear. The Indian team was basically a vassal of Russia. Of course, they wouldn't have any objections. The African Alliance and the European Alliance didn't have any objections either. As for the Chinese team, it didn't seem to be too dangerous. Wu Hai also agreed. All right, let's go. Chaidev quickly organized the team. A group of 25 people began to enter the Tyrannosaurus nest. It was noon. The The Tyrannosauruses were all resting in the cave. After entering the cave, they immediately felt the cold wind around them. A strong smell of blood wafted over. After walking for about 50 meters, the light became dimmer. "Watch out above!" An Indian warlord in front shouted. Suddenly, countless huge bats flew over. Each bat had a wingspan of nearly 3 meters. Their mouse-like heads looked even bigger than a pig's head. When they opened their mouths, they were full of sharp fangs. They rushed towards the team from all directions. "Guard your positions. Attack!" Chadev's team was in the middle and suffered the least amount of attacks. However, the other teams were different. The Indian team was the first to suffer. They were besieged by a dense swarm of bats. Although the Quasi-Star and a few warlords tried their best to fight back, these bats were at least grade A. They were extraordinarily strong. After a warlord killed a few bats in a row, a bat grabbed him by the shoulder and lifted him into the air. This warlord tried his best to kill a few bats in the air. However, he was surrounded by a group of bats and was torn to pieces with a few claws. He became the first person to die in battle. Wu Hai's team did not suffer much pressure in the beginning. However, after the first Indian warlord died, the Indians did not dare to stay. They quickened their pace, and the team went deeper into the cave. The pressure at the back increased immediately. "Amming, you're a telekinesis master. Support us with your flying sword. Support us wherever there's danger." Lin Jun stood in the middle of the 5 people and waved the flying sword in his hand. His main support point was Qin Huashang's team. He took care of the other 3. His speed was neither fast nor slow. It was very suitable for a gold-level telekinesis master. At this time, another scream came from the left. Another European Union warlord was grabbed and pulled out by the bats. He was surrounded by the bats and was torn to pieces in a few moves. After that, another African warlord was killed on the right. This person was even a telekinesis master. He tried to escape in the air, but was chased by a dozen bats. In the end, only his skeleton was left. F***CK. These bats are too vicious. Why are there so many things in the Tyrannosaurus cave? There are even some quasi-S-level creatures in there. We don't know yet. Bats are not considered strong in this area. They only win in numbers. However, the Tyrannosaurus doesn't eat these relatively small prey. Therefore, these things are gathered here. The battle became more and more intense. The Indians, with the support of 2 Quasi-Star State Russians, were finally about to rush out of the bat-infested area. Just as the whole team was about to rush out, Zhang Zhen's team finally encountered danger. Originally, Luo Fei and he were close to each other and could rely on each other. However, when Luo Fei saw that Lin Zhen was taking care of Qin Huashang more, he unconsciously moved closer to Qin Huashang. Zhang Zhen was somewhat left alone. Seeing that it was too late to be surrounded by the bats, Zhang Zhen suddenly pulled Luo Fei and used him as a human shield. Luo Fei couldn't dodge in time and was torn to shreds by a few bats. Zhang Zhen used this opportunity to finally rush out of the bat-infested area. These things seemed to have a sense of territory. They wouldn't stray too far from their nest. Zhang Zhen wasn't disappointed that he had harmed Luo Fei. When Wu Hai looked at him, he said with conviction, "Captain, either he dies or I die. I didn't have a choice." Wu Hai didn't say much. They had seen too many deaths in the wild, especially for warlords and quasi-star state warriors. Everyone's life was very precious. No one wanted to die. This kind of thing wasn't uncommon. Lin Zhen's heart didn't waver. In terms of the number of killings he had seen, everyone present added together couldn't compare to Lin Zhen. What he was concerned about was what he could find in this Tyrannosaurus cave. Danger lurked everywhere as soon as they arrived. Lin Zhen believed that the road ahead wouldn't be easy. He didn't know how many of the 20 or so people would survive. After passing through the bad area, the cave ahead was still dark and gloomy. A fishy smell wafted over, causing Qin Huashang to frown slightly. "Why is it so fishy?" "The smell of blood." "A lot of blood," Lin Zhen replied. "Ah, so many bones," someone in front said. After turning a corner, a huge pile of white bones appeared in their line of sight. It wasn't appropriate to describe it as a pile of white bones. It was more like a mountain of white bones. Countless bones of various dragon beasts were piled up here. There were even some bones of humans. Some of the bones were still relatively fresh. They were badly mutilated and emitted a thick smell of blood. Everyone, be careful. We might enter the Tyrannosaurus cave ahead. An Indian in front was still shouting, but before he could finish, a rustling sound came from all around. Snakes. So many snakes. Chapter 284. Kill. Get rid of these worms. Chai Difu roared. This time, he took the lead and joined forces with a few other Russian martial artists to attack. The others also joined in, but these venomous snakes were not easy to deal with. Each of them was quasi-S class, just like the anacondas in the Wadalian lake. Moreover, the venom they contained made it impossible for them to attack without caution. 2 consecutive screams were heard. One person from the African Alliance and the European Union had died. Lin Zhen's team was also under considerable pressure. The ferocious snakes were biting at them from all directions. Those who had never seen such a scene would not be able to imagine how terrifying it was. Qin Huashang seemed to be on the verge of collapsing. Lin Zhen's flying sword was also not as powerful as before. After all, he had to face the attacks of many venomous snakes himself. A black and red python pounced on Qin Huashang's head and was about to swallow her whole. Wu Hai, who was separated from Qin Huashang by Zhang Jun, could not help in time and kicked Zhang Jun over. Zhang Jun never would have dreamed that Wu Hai would attack him. He couldn't dodge in time and was bitten by the giant python. Half of his body was still struggling, but when the giant python fell, the snakes rolled. In the blink of an eye, his whole body disappeared among the snakes. The moment he disappeared, the sword in Lin Zhen's hand flashed past like a bolt of lightning, accurately slicing off the finger with the spatial ring. After losing a few more people, the team finally rushed out of the white bone venomous snake area. Wu Hai and Qin Huashang stood side by side, staring at Lin Zhen. I didn't expect your psychic control to be so strong. You could actually take Zhang Zhen's ring at that time. I really underestimated you. Wu Hai's voice was a little cold. Hee. I didn't expect Captain Wu to be so decisive in saving the damsel in distress. I also underestimated you. Wu Hai's face became colder and colder. He looked at Lin Zhen with hostility. Qin Huashang's face was also a little pale. She could feel that when the python attacked, just now, Lin Zhen seemed to have deliberately not supported her. What was going on? Shouldn't this person adore her? Who the hell are you? You've been hiding your strength. Wu Hai asked. I'm whoever you think I am. You're Lin Zhen. Qin Huashang seemed to have remembered something and whispered. Lin Zhen smiled and did not speak. Wu Hai said bitterly, You've been hiding so deeply that we didn't see through it. If I let you see through me too early, do you think I'd still be alive? I'm afraid you've already informed Li Yao. Lin Zhen laughed disdainfully. How did you find out? Wu Hai asked. It's actually very simple. I heard your conversation with the walkie-talkie and the strange sounds of the two of you doing it in the tent at night. Don't ask me why I heard it. My ears are more sensitive. And you, woman, actually wanted to use that method to test me. Don't you know that Lin Zhen's girlfriend is divine sex saintess Su Mingwe? How did you have the confidence to come here with such beauty? Sometimes people are really strange creatures. Lin Zhen looked at Qin Huashang and mocked her mercilessly. You! How dare you be so arrogant when you're being chased by a Star Realm expert? Wu Hai, inform Li Yao that Lin Zhen is here. Qin Huashang was a little angry. Wu Hai took out the walkie-talkie and pointed at Lin Zhen. Lin Zhen, don't be so arrogant. I was hesitating whether or not to tell Li Yao about your situation because of your contributions to the country, but I didn't expect you to play tricks on me. In that case, there's no need for me to hesitate anymore. Li Yao is on the first floor, and he'll be here soon to deal with you. I'll make the call now. If you have the ability, do it now. Let's see if those Russians will let you go. Wu Hai lowered his voice. At this time, he really didn't dare to reveal Lin Zhen's information. After all, Lin Zhen was known as the strongest person below the Star Realm. If he really went crazy, even if the Russians and other countries hated Lin Zhen to the bone, they might not be able to stop Lin Zhen from killing him. However, Lin Zhen definitely couldn't kill so many people, and he probably wouldn't make things difficult for him on the spot. In Wu Hai's opinion, Lin Jun would probably turn around and run. That way, he would have completed his mission. However, Lin Jun just sneered disdainfully and ignored Li Yao. Although he couldn't make a move right now, Lin Jun was confident that even if Li Yao came, he wouldn't be able to do anything to him. He also wanted to meet Li Yao. At this time, the teams counted their numbers. Apart from the Russians, there were only 3 people left in the Chinese team. The European Union, the African Union, and the 2 countries only had 2 people left in each team. The Indian team had it the worst. Only their captain, Pogba, was still alive. The remaining 4 were all dead, including a psychic. 25 people had entered, and now there were only 13 left. They hadn't even seen the Tyrannosaurus, and half of them had died. Chaidev looked around and said, "It's about time. Friends, the Tyrannosaurus cave is right in front of us. It said that there are sacred weapons inside. Let's work a little harder. If we get the sacred weapons, everyone will be rewarded. Now, we need one person to go in and explore the situation inside to determine the number of Tyrannosauruses. Then, we need to make a plan." In front of them was a huge, dark cave. They could even hear the snoring of Tyrannosauruses. There was probably more than one Tyrannosaurus inside. Every Tyrannosaurus was at least S rank. Among them, the strongest ones were even close to SS rank. They were considered quasi-SS rank and were the strongest existences on the first floor of the city of ancient gods. Quasi-SS rank mutated beasts. Even the average star realm wouldn't dare to provoke them. Therefore, when faced with the cave in front of them, almost no one was willing to go in first. At this time, Lin Jun took the initiative to stand up. "I'll go in. I'm a psychic, so it should be easier for me to move around than the others." "Very well, then you go in first." Chaidev immediately agreed. Wu Hai and Qin Huashang opened their mouths. They felt that something was wrong, but Lin Jun didn't care about them at all. Instead, he stepped into the Tyrannosaurus cave. Not even 5 seconds after entering, Lin Jun's scream suddenly came from inside. After that, it was silent. F***CK. So useless. You didn't even bring out any information. Chaidev scolded. Then, he turned to the psychic from the European Union and said, "You go, you must bring out some information." The psychic from the European Union entered with trepidation. After about 10 minutes, he flew out in a sorry state. There are about 10 Tyrannosauruses inside. 3 of them are adult males. One of them is especially big. Beside the big Tyrannosaurus, there seems to be a lot of good stuff, but I didn't dare to go over. Trash. You should have at least lured out 1 or 2 Tyrannosauruses so that we can hunt them down bit by bit. Now, you go in again and lure out another Tyrannosaurus. The psychic from the European Union once again entered the Tyrannosaurus cave. The rest of the people prepared an ambush at the entrance of the cave, clearing out the Tyrannosauruses bit by bit. Not long after the battle started, Li Yao, who had been looking for Lin Jun to the point of going crazy, finally arrived. A gust of wind swept past. Li Yao walked on air. Some of the exploration teams saw him and hurriedly dodged. F***CK. A Star Realm expert. Everyone dodge. His speed is too fast. He's heading straight for the 2nd floor. You don't have to worry. The Star Realm expert definitely won't stay on the 1st floor. As long as we don't provoke him, he won't care about ants like us. But I see that he seems to be very aggressive. Is he going after someone? Then don't bother. Whoever he goes after will be unlucky. Those below the Star Realm can't fight against the Star Realm expert. Even Lin Jun can't, let alone us. Li Yao's hair and beard fluttered. There was finally news of Lin Jun, and it was in the Tyrannosaurus cave. Let's see where this brat can run to this time. At this moment, Lin Jun was inside the cave. The liquid metal around him had turned into a sea urchin-shaped metal ball and wrapped around him. A small Tyrannosaurus tried to touch it and immediately screamed from the pain. It turned around and ran away, never touching this hedgehog-like thing again. Lin Jun didn't care about the outside world at all. He took out Zhang Zhun's spatial ring and took out the wind elemental crystal from it. S-rank wind elemental crystal. It just so happens that I urgently need it. I didn't get you immediately back then, but now I'm back. Lin Jun's spatial folding technique was just a little bit away from completion. He needed to increase his strength immediately. The fastest way to increase his strength was to absorb the crystal. Lin Jun mixed the medicine he had prepared with the crystal and immediately started absorbing it. S-rank crystals could be absorbed by Star Realm experts. As soon as Lin Jun absorbed it, he immediately felt a powerful energy enter his dantian. There was also a trace of wind elemental energy. The dark star in his body started to revolve, guiding the energy into the dark star. Green-colored wind elemental energy slowly appeared on the dark star. At first, it was just a light breeze. Then, the wind gradually grew stronger and turned into a gale. As the energy continued to enter the dark star, a gale started to blow on the surface of the dark star. The wind elemental energy was surging, and the power of electricity was flickering. This dark star gradually had the appearance of a real planet. The gale turned into a whirlwind, and the whirlwind turned into a tornado. Then, it turned into a hurricane that engulfed the entire planet. The dark star's absorption speed was very fast. 10 minutes later, Lin Jun had completely absorbed the wind elemental crystal. It really is an S-rank elemental crystal. The energy contained within is really powerful. My realm is already close to the late stage of the 7th grade War God realm. Now, I can try the spatial folding technique. Lin Jun felt that he was in a better state than he had ever been before. His spiritual force once again sank into the life space stone. A trace of mental power was injected into the dark star. He repeated what he had done thousands of times. Swoosh! The mental power was injected into a space and then withdrew. Then, the mental power from the dark star poured in. Success! 1,000th of a second. Lin Jun's mind moved. The original space within his dantian clashed with the spatial energy of the dark star. Light and spatial energy instantly completed hundreds of millions of folds and intertwined. Then, a dimensional space was set up beside Lin Jun. Lin Jun kept the liquid metal, and his body disappeared from his original position. It was as if he had never appeared. At this moment, Lin Jun's dantian once again underwent a bizarre change. The first space that he injected his mental power into was directly integrated into his dantian. Then, the space that he injected his mental power into from the dark star quietly integrated into the dark star. After this space integrated with the dark star seemed to have a life of its own. Lin Jun could feel that the flames, lightning, light, cold air, hurricane, metal energy, and dark energy within the dark star seemed to have come alive. Although they were still within his dantian, it was as if they had turned into another world. A world that was close to reality. Is this a sign that a planet is about to be born? Those energy bodies are going to gather into a planet's core? Just when Lin Jun was puzzled, the dark star suddenly began to revolve. A powerful life force and energy surged out from the dark star like a tide. In an instant, it filled Lin Jun's dantian. Under the impact of this powerful energy, the boundary of his dantian chi began to expand crazily. Chapter 285. This time, the dantian chi surge was completely out of Lin Jun's expectations. In his mind, after fusing with the life space stone, he had learned the space folding technique. This would be the most profound concealment technique. No matter what kind of harsh environment he was in, he would be able to rely on the extra-dimensional space to survive. However, he had never expected that the dark star would actually undergo a change at this moment. All the energy began to condense and rotate. Lin Jun was somewhat familiar with this situation. In his previous life, he had condensed a star core. Wasn't this a situation that would only occur when the dantian chi was condensing into a cyclone and the cyclone was condensing into a star core? However, that was a complete condensation of the dantian chi, while the dark star was a condensation of energy. How can this be? Isn't the evolution process in the dantian a virtual evolution? Even if it eventually becomes a star or a galaxy, isn't it still not a real existence? Why do I feel that the dark star is about to become a real world? I understand now. Space. The dark star's original existence was based on the dantian chi. Although the energy is real, it didn't become an independent space. Now that it has fused with the power of space, its existence has a real basis. Although it is still in my Dantian, it has the possibility of evolving into a real world. Although it is only an energy body now, it is an independent space. The wind element is the air, the cold air is the water, the flame is the magma, the dark energy is the light, and the special metal and lightning are also present. However, it still lacks the most basic material to condense into a planet, Earth. Once I absorb the Earth element and enter the dark star, will it really start to evolve? If it evolves, what will it be like? Lin Jun had never experienced such a situation before. He had never even heard of such a thing in the universe. The dark star in his Dantian was actually about to evolve into a real world. It was probably unprecedented in the universe. However, at this moment, Lin Jun couldn't care less about the dark star situation. Because the dark star was about to condense a star core, it brought with it an incomparably powerful vitality and vitality. It actually expanded his Dantian continuously. This power is so strong. Lin Jun was about to go crazy. His Dantian was roaring nonstop. The Dantian Shi was like a sea, and the new power was like a plateau that was almost comparable to the sea. It was directly thrown into the sea, causing the edge of the Dantian Shi to expand at an incomparably fast speed. Lin Jun was now using all his energy to tidy up the Dantian Shi so that the expansion would be as stable as possible. However, his strength was a little weak at the moment. The chi in his Dantian was expanding too quickly. In just a few seconds, it had pushed his Dantian from mid-stage to late-stage level 7. He's already at the late stage? That's too fast. Furthermore, I can feel a powerful vitality and energy in my Dantian Shi. It's the power of a new planet that's about to be born. Because the space is narrow, there's nowhere for it to be released, but it actually all enter my Dantian. I wonder what level I'll reach under the push of this power. Lin Jun exerted all his strength and tried his best to push the Dantian Shi in as smoothly as possible. Rumble, rumble, rumble. I'm going crazy. Other people usually need to cultivate for many years to advance to the War God realm. However, this dark star suddenly condensed, and I can't even control my advancement. 3 minutes. 3 minutes later, the energy in his Dantian broke through the barrier between Lin Jun's 7th grade War God and 8th grade War God with ease. This barrier was like a decaying river dam that was swept away by an unprecedentedly huge flood. It was easily destroyed, and there was nothing left of it. Oh my God! Every time the War God realm increases, the amount of Dantian Chi required would almost double. However, from mid-stage 7th level to 8th level War God, the Dantian Chi didn't even slow down. What level can it reach? Don't tell me my Dantian is going to explode? If that's the case, my death would be too unjust. I reckon that no one in the entire universe would explode and die because their Dantian Chi is too strong. The new energy of the Dark Star was so powerful. In just 5 minutes, he had advanced from early stage 8th level War God to mid-stage 8th level War God. Moreover, the Dantian Chi was still increasing crazily. What a powerful force. The new energy of a planet is simply not proportional to the strength of a human. This is all thanks to the fact that the Dark Star is only condensing a cyclone right now. If it were to condense a star core, my Dantian would have exploded. Luckily, the Dark Star is still lacking a certain energy. No matter how much it rotates, it can't condense into a star core because it lacks the energy of Earth. Earth is the core of a planet. It's the foundation. Without Earth, these energy bodies can't truly condense. Thinking of this, Lin Jun was no longer worried. He tried his best to organize the Dantian Chi. As for the periphery, let it expand. As long as it doesn't condense a star core, it shouldn't explode and die. In short, this was a good thing. A Tyrannosaurus rushed out of the cave. Its mouth was as big as a small house. Kip, one of the 3 Russian warriors, couldn't dodge in time and was bitten to death by the Tyrannosaurus. The surrounding people rushed forward and attacked wildly with all kinds of methods, especially Chaidev and Warsaw. The giant sabers and battle axes in their hands were extremely lethal. After the Tyrannosaurus killed Kip, it was also killed by the crowd. However, two more Tyrannosauruses rushed out of the cave and set off another bloody storm. Adolf and Lancelot died one after another. Before them, the people from the European Union and the African Union had all died. Huff huff. Warsaw, how many Tyrannosauruses have we killed? Chaidev asked, panting. 8. There should only be 2 left. Chaidev looked back and saw that there were only 4 people left, including himself, Warsaw, Wu Hai, and Qin Huashang from China. You go and lure another one out. Those Tyrannosauruses are all misers. If you don't injure them, they won't leave the treasure. The last one will be easy to deal with. Chaidev pointed at Wu Hai. Wu Hai's expression changed. He looked out of the cave anxiously, wondering why Liao hadn't arrived yet. He didn't believe that Lin Jun would die so easily. If Lin Jun didn't die, his reputation would be ruined. Lin Jun already had a huge reputation in the country and was loved by the people. If he betrayed him in order to befriend a Star Realm expert, he would definitely be despised by the people. Therefore, Lin Jun had to die. Only with his death would this matter not be exposed. However, Liao hadn't arrived yet, and he didn't dare to offend Chaidev. He could only bite the bullet and walk slowly into the cave. He hadn't taken more than 2 steps when he suddenly felt a gust of wind. A suffocating astral power rushed toward him. Whoosh! Liao appeared in front of the 4 people. Chaidev and Warsaw were stunned. They couldn't help but step back. Sweat appeared on their foreheads. Although Chaidev was known as the strongest person below the Star Realm in Russia, he was still below the Star Realm. He didn't have much resistance against the Star Realm Master. Senior, what are you doing here? Chaidev asked, trembling. Shouldn't all the Star Realm Masters be on the 2nd floor? Why were they still on the 1st floor with these low-level martial artists? It was as if the god of war was in the wilderness, competing with the warriors and generals for resources. It was simply bullying. Perhaps some war gods were shameless enough to do such a thing for a small thing. However, even if a Star Realm expert was a heinous criminal, he probably wouldn't do such a thing. Wouldn't that make the other Star Realm experts laugh their heads off? One had to know that Star Realm Masters weren't as numerous as war gods. They didn't know each other, and not many people would know if they were embarrassed. There were only a little more than 1,000 of them. They more or less knew each other's situation. There were even a few star rankings. Basically, no one was completely unknown. Looking at Chai Di-Fu and Hua Sha's fear, Liao smiled proudly. You 2 little hairy brats don't need to worry. This old man didn't come here to find trouble with you little brats. No matter what there is here, I won't fight with you for it. Although I don't really like you old hairy brats, but at my level, the concept of national boundaries has long disappeared. What we pursue is the peak of martial arts. What we pursue is quick revenge, and not to deal with the weak. Oh, thank you, Senior. May I know what you are here for? Chaidev and Warsaw finally let out a sigh of relief. As long as he wasn't here to cause trouble, they would be in deep trouble today. Liao didn't talk to them anymore. Instead, he turned his gaze to Wu Hai and Qin Huashang. Are you the ones who told me that Lin Jun is here? Yes, Senior. My name is Wu Hai. I used to be Lin Jun's captain. He was a member of our team. However, this person hid very well. We didn't notice him at first, otherwise, we would have sent out the news. Oof. Useless. I already sent out the news to every team to pay attention to the mass people in their team. You guys actually let him hide for so many days. If you delay my business, be careful of your heads. Senior, don't worry. That Lin Jun is currently in the cave. He just went in. Wu Hai told Liao about Lin Jun entering the cave and how he let out a scream. He asked Liao to judge whether Lin Jun was dead or not. Liao laughed disdainfully when he heard this. Calling you stupid is not an understatement at all. Even someone like you can fight this Tyrannosaurus for a while. How could Lin Jun be killed by the Tyrannosaurus in 5 seconds? He must be hiding inside. Wu Hai's eyes lit up when he heard this. It was true. Lin Jun's acting was a little too much. How could he die in 5 seconds? Liao waved his hand. Come, follow me into the cave. As long as we kill Lin Jun, I won't take anything in the cave. If I'm in a good mood, I might even help you guys kill the Tyrannosaurus." Wu Hai and Qin Huashang hurriedly followed Li Yao. Li Yao looked back at Chaidev and Warsaw. "You guys follow me." Chai Difu and Huasha were overjoyed. Chai Difu followed up and said, "So Senior is here to teach Lin Jun a lesson. That's great. This kid, I really want to meet him. Senior, can you give me a chance?" Chapter 286. Liao led a few people into the cave. After entering, he immediately looked around. The T-Rex's cave wasn't small, and it was dark inside. However, nothing could block Liao's vision. There were two giant T-Rex at the end of the cave. Looking at them, Liao frowned slightly. These two T-Rex weren't ordinary S-rank mutant beasts. They were quasi-SS rank mutant beasts. Even Star Realm experts wouldn't want to provoke quasi-SS rank mutant beasts unless there were enough benefits. The male and female Tyrannosauruses could be considered as the overlords of the first floor. Liao did not approach them immediately. Instead, he searched for traces of Lin Jun. Strangely, he couldn't find any trace of Lin Jun. It was as if he wasn't in the cave at all. "Are you sure you're not lying? Is Lin Jun really here?" Liao asked. "It's true. Senior Liao, we saw Lin Jun enter the cave. I wasn't the only one who saw it. Qin Huashang saw it too. The two Russians saw it too." Wu Hai hurriedly looked at Chaidev and Warsaw. Chaidev nodded. "If the masked man is Lin Jun, then he really did go in. Yes, now that I think about it, that person's figure is exactly the same as Lin Jun's." Warsaw added, confirming Wu Hai's words. Liao didn't say anything. He carefully looked around the edge of the cave and observed the situation outside. He wanted to see if Lin Jun could teleport out immediately after entering the cave. In Liao's opinion, Lin Jun could only teleport 100 meters at most. If he went in and out, he would teleport to the place where those people killed the T-Rex. He would definitely be discovered. This possibility shouldn't exist. In fact, he didn't know that Lin Jun could teleport a distance of 200 meters after advancing to diamond rank mental strength. It was just that Lin Jun didn't teleport. After searching for a while, Liao finally found something. He found some sharp holes in the ground, as well as a spherical crater. As far as I know, Lin Jun has a liquid metal. That thing can change into any shape it will. This should be the place where he first stopped. He used the liquid metal to form a round ball, and it was covered with spikes. That way, those Tyrannosauruses couldn't hurt him, so he stopped here. A few people also came over to observe. They quickly found some clues and admired Li Yao's analytical ability. "But Senior, what happened after Lin Jun stopped here? We didn't see him go out." Li Yao didn't say anything. He searched carefully again, but he couldn't find any clues after searching all the surrounding areas. In the end, Li Yao gave up. He helplessly hammered the wall. "There's only one possibility. When you were fighting, Lin Jun slipped out while none of you were paying attention. Otherwise, it's impossible for him to not leave any traces." Hearing this, a few people were a little disappointed. Didn't that mean they couldn't find Lin Jun? Liao coldly snorted. "It's useless even if he ran out. As long as he's still in the city of ancient gods, he can't run away. I'll ask my friends to help. In a while, I'll block the entrance. We'll know if he left or not. As long as he doesn't leave, I'll ask my friends to block the entrance. Then, I'll dig 3 feet into the ground to find him." At this time, Qin Huashang gathered her courage and said to Liao, "Senior Liao, since you're here, can you help us deal with those 2 Tyrannosauruses? Those 2 are quasi-SS rank. If you don't help, we won't be able to take them down." Liao glanced at the 2 Tyrannosauruses. He didn't want to get involved. Those 2 quasi-SS rank Tyrannosauruses weren't easy to deal with. Moreover, although Liao was in the Star Realm, he wasn't the strongest in the Star Realm. If there weren't enough benefits, why would he look for trouble? But when his gaze swept over the place where the Tyrannosauruses were, he was suddenly stunned. The reason why the 2 Tyrannosauruses didn't leave their nest to attack them was because the mother Tyrannosaurus had hatched many eggs. The 2 Tyrannosauruses were protecting their children, and in their nest, there weren't only Tyrannosaurus eggs. There were also a lot of shiny things. Mid-grade astral tools, special coins, high-grade astral tools, gold and jewels, and even top-grade astral tools. If these things alone weren't enough to attract Li Yao, he wouldn't want to bear the infamy of snatching things from the war gods. However, at the top of this pile of treasures, there was actually the golden half-body armor. A sacred armor. Li Yao's eyes suddenly lit up. He didn't expect there to be a sacred armor here. As a Star Realm expert, he knew about the existence of sacred artifacts. However, sacred artifacts were not something that ordinary people could possess. There were also sacred artifacts in other ancient god ruins. However, the people who obtained sacred artifacts in the end were basically experts on the 3 stars rankings. For a Star Realm expert like him, who wasn't on the star rankings, he could only use a top-grade astral tool. Moreover, he might not be able to gather a complete set of top-grade astral tools. Among the sacred weapons, the best ones were of course the support type, followed by the armors, and finally the weapon type. If he could obtain this armor, his fighting strength would definitely increase by a level. Although it wouldn't go as far as to enter the star rankings, ordinary Star Realm experts wouldn't be his match. Li Yao, who had just solemnly vowed that he wouldn't snatch the spoils of war from other places, immediately went back on his word. He had to get his hands on this same armor. Li Yao rolled his eyes and nodded. All right, since I've come here, if I don't give you some benefits, it would seem like I'm stingy. However, I think it's better not to get rid of these 2 Tyrannosauruses. Otherwise, the warriors on the first floor will all head to the second floor, and there will be heavy casualties. I'll help you get those treasures, and you can divide them among yourselves. The few of them hurriedly nodded in agreement. They believed that a Star Realm expert like Li Yao wouldn't go back on his word. Li Yao glanced over there. In a moment, I'll go lure away one of the Tyrannosauruses. Then, you guys will hold it back for a minute. You don't need to worry about the other one. I'll deal with it. I'll also help you get the treasures back. You just need to escape safely. Although Chai Dev and the others were a little worried, Li Yao was more powerful now. Moreover, they trusted the Star Realm expert, so they still agreed. Li Yao didn't care what these people thought. Since he had decided to snatch the treasures, then no one could stop him. His body swept through the air and went straight for the 2 Tyrannosauruses. These 2 Tyrannosauruses were quite irritable at the moment. Many people had come outside and killed many of their companions. However, in order to protect their eggs, they wouldn't leave on their own initiative. They only looked at the few people over there and roared nonstop. Li Yao flew over and pulled out a top-grade astral weapon longsword in his hand. A cold light radiated in all directions. Go for me. The top-grade astral weapon longsword carried a stream of light and fiercely slashed the back of the male Tyrannosaurus, immediately cutting off a large piece of flesh. The male Tyrannosaurus felt pain and roared. Its huge head shook and rushed towards Li Yao. Seeing that the big mouth was about to bite, Li Yao's figure flashed and teleported. He appeared dozens of meters away with a whoosh. The Tyrannosaurus caught up with him in 2 large strides. Li Yao immediately flew at a low altitude and directly arrived in front of Chai Dev and the others. Attack for me. You only need to block it for 3 minutes to complete the mission. Chai Dev and the others didn't dare to be negligent. They immediately attacked the huge male Tyrannosaurus. However, this kind of quasi-SS rank mutated beast wasn't so easy to deal with. In a face-to-face confrontation, Qin Huashang was swallowed by the Tyrannosaurus. This woman, who claimed to love Lin Jun, had lost her life so easily. This also confirmed a saying in the world of martial artists: don't covet things that are beyond your scope of strength. Only Chai Dev, Warsaw, and Wu Hai, the 3 quasi-star realm experts, were still bitterly holding on and fighting guerrilla warfare, waiting for Li Yao's results. Li Yao saw that they had lured the male Tyrannosaurus away. He still had some confidence in facing a quasi-SS rank beast alone. In the worst-case scenario, obtaining the treasure and leaving was absolutely no problem. He flew at a low altitude and headed straight for the female Tyrannosaurus. The female Tyrannosaurus was guarding its eggs. When it saw Li Yao coming over, it immediately opened its bloody mouth and roared a warning. At this moment, Li Yao only had eyes for the dazzling golden half-body armor. The top-grade astral weapon sword in his hand was driven by psychic power and slashed at the female Tyrannosaurus. The Tyrannosaurus stretched out its huge claw and slapped it. Clang! The top-grade astral weapon sword was actually slapped away. Liao hurriedly used psychic power to recall it, while his body rushed toward the armor. Dragon beasts all liked shiny things. This golden armor was the treasure of these two Tyrannosaurus. How could Liao touch it so easily? The female Tyrannosaurus opened its mouth and prepared to attack Liao. Liao was already prepared. He used psychic power to control the sword and actually slashed at the Tyrannosaurus eggs. Let's see if you want the treasure or your child, you bastard. Liao's diversion tactic was indeed effective. The female Tyrannosaurus couldn't take care of its head and tail. Compared to the treasure, its child was more important. It could only turn around and slap the top-grade astral weapon sword. Liao took advantage of this opportunity and quickly approached the holy armor. The golden light nearly blinded his eyes. Liao had never thought that he would be able to find such a good item on this trip. Although he was somewhat regretful that he couldn't find Lin Jun, this Saint-Tier armor was more than enough to make up for it. Haha, the holy armor that even Star Realm experts would break their heads to snatch his mind. Liao, I finally have a holy armor. His finger quickly approached and was about to touch the edge of the holy armor. At this moment, in the corner of the cave, a spatial crack slightly opened. A wave of air surged out from the spatial crack. It was like the impact of an atomic bomb landing, causing smoke and dust to spread out fiercely. Whether it was Chai-Dev, Warsaw, Wuhai, or even Liao, their hearts fiercely contracted at this moment. Chapter 287. The dark star in Lin Jun's body was constantly revolving, pouring a surge of vitality into his dantian, turning it into billowing waves of qi, expanding his dantian again and again. When Liao came to check, Lin Jun had already advanced to the 9th grade war god. When Wu Hai and the others begged Liao to stay and deal with the tyrannical dragon, Lin Jun had already advanced to the 9th grade late phase. At this time, the energy released by the dark star finally began to slow down, but it was still increasing. When Liao was about to make his move, Lin Jun had already reached the peak of the 9th grade war god. From the 7th grade mid-phase to the peak of the 9th grade war god, this process took less than an hour. The dark star began to circulate smoothly. The surging dantian qi finally stopped surging but began to revolve slowly. The dantian qi sea that was several times larger than before was now vast. It could enter the quasi-star realm at any time. Lin Jun could feel that he only lacked an opportunity. As long as the opportunity arrived, he would immediately advance to the quasi-star realm. The dark star was suspended in the dantian qi sea. Although it had yet to condense into a star nucleus, it only lacked one kind of energy. As long as Lin Jun could absorb the energy of the Tao Earth element, this dark star would definitely be able to condense into a star nucleus. In addition to these, there was another power that had greatly increased, and that was the dark star's gravitational force. Previously, the dark star's gravitational force was neither strong nor weak. This time, however, after the dark star began to condense, the gravitational force was nearly 10 times stronger. As for the specific effects, Lin Jun still needed to test it out. Moreover, the dark star belonged to another space, but it was connected to Lin Jun's dantian, but it was not here. Now, as long as Lin Jun willed it, the dark star and the dantian qi would collide, and the two spaces would fold, immediately forming a dimensional space around Lin Jun, allowing him to disappear at any time. However, he could only disappear at the same time, as Lin Jun could not walk or move within the spatial crack. Wherever he disappeared, he would have to appear there sooner or later. He could see the situation outside from the spatial rift, but the people outside could not see Lin Jun's situation. He could feel the surging dantian qi in his body. He could feel this powerful force and could not help but take a deep breath. Originally, he thought that after learning how to fold space, he would be able to stay alive before reaching the star realm. However, he didn't expect that the condensation of the dark star would give him such a big surprise, allowing him to reach the peak of the 9th grade War God realm. From mid-stage level 7 to peak level 9, Lin Jun's strength had almost doubled. Speed, strength, reflexes, all these factors that determined a martial artist's basic combat prowess were all doubled. Great! If he had this kind of strength from the start, he wouldn't have fought so hard in the War God arena. He would have just crushed his opponents. In this way, I can save more than half a year's time to level up. Otherwise, although absorbing the crystals to level up isn't slow, it would delay a lot of time. Now, I can be considered to be somewhat competitive in the city of ancient gods, the strongest person below the star realm. In the past, some people might not be convinced by my title. After all, there are many star realm experts in this world. However, this time, not only do I want to be the strongest below the star realm, I also want to challenge the star realm. Lin Jun stood up. He could clearly see the situation outside from the folded space. Li Yao was rapidly approaching the half-body Saint Tool. His flying sword was restraining the female T-Rex. It seemed like he was about to succeed. You want to succeed? Then you better ask me first. Lin Jun raised his hand and took out the top-grade astral weapon, the Spear's 7 kills, from his spatial ring. This was the first time he used this spear. Today was going to be its first battle. With a move of his spiritual force, the folded space was removed. Lin Jun's accumulated qi after many breakthroughs was released from the space. Waves of qi rolled forward, and he returned to the outside world. At this time, just as Li Yao was about to take the half-body Saint Tool, Lin Jun immediately raised his hand. Gravity! With the activation of gravity, the dark star rotated in Lin Jun's body. A powerful gravity enveloped the pile of treasures where the T-Rex was. It wasn't just the half-body armor. The pile of treasures, the Saint Tool, the dozen or so astral weapons, countless coins, gold, jewels, and a few T-Rex eggs all flew towards Lin Jun's palm at this moment. There was also the surrounding dust and gravel, which actually formed a torrent. Lin Jun hurriedly opened his spatial ring. Everything rumbled into it. Li Yao saw that he was about to get the half-body armor, but his vision blurred. He almost staggered from Lin Jun's gravity. His body swayed a few times. When he looked again, there was nothing in front of him. Even the T-Rex's feces were gone. Lin Jun, Li Yao let out a battle cry. His eyes immediately turned a little red. He didn't care about how crazily the T-Rex that had lost her egg was biting at him. He teleported to Lin Jun's front in a flash. Holding the long sword in his hand, he fiercely stabbed at Lin Jun with a simple yet incomparably fierce strike. The attack of the Star Realm caused a spatial crack to appear. It wanted to take Lin Jun's life. Lin Jun coldly snorted. He waved the 7-kill spear in his hand. Open for me. Won't. A huge shockwave rolled out. At this moment, the cave began to shake. Li Yao looked at his sword in disbelief. Lin Jun actually blocked his attack. If it was just a block, it would be fine. The key point was that it was completely blown away. This is impossible. Li Yao angrily shouted. Nothing is impossible. Li Yao, let's settle the score today. Lin Jun blasted Li Yao away with a single attack. His confidence immediately increased. He now had the strength to fight against an ordinary Star Realm expert. That's good, that's good. Then let's fight. Then let's vent it out. The lightning wings on his back were released with a rumble. Lin Jun pointed the long spear in his hand. Pa pa pa. Countless spear lights flashed like lasers, and the electric power around his body flourished. Li Yao, come on. Whoosh. In the next second, Lin Jun had already appeared in front of Li Yao. Endless spear lights poured down like a rainstorm. Ayaya. Lin Jun, don't be too arrogant. For a moment, Li Yao was actually suppressed by Lin Jun. He blocked in a flurry. He only felt that his opponent's spear was fast and ruthless. The power of each attack was as heavy as a mountain. Coupled with the impact of the lightning wings, he was immediately at a disadvantage. He waved the long sword in his hand and roared repeatedly. The star power around his body also began to spread. However, he still couldn't turn the situation around for a moment. Too slow, too slow. Li Yao, you're too slow. Faster, faster. Hit. Yeah. Lin Jun felt his palms heating up. The blood in his chest was burning. He thirsted for battle. He thirsted for a challenge. He had a feeling that he would not be satisfied if he did not vent it. He ignored all of Li Yao's attacks. He wanted to attack, and attack. Clang, 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 clang. The two of them left two trails of afterimages in the huge cave. Intense collisions were incessant. Wu Hai and the other two-star realms could only see a trail of smoke and dust. They couldn't see the two's attacks at all. This is Lin Jun? Chaidev actually cursed. The scene in front of him had subverted his understanding. He's a spirit reader master. Oh my god, is this the strength of the strongest person below the star realm? He's actually suppressing Li Yao. Am I seeing things? Warsaw was also shocked. It's over, it's over. Lin Jun is going crazy. How can he be a peak level 9 war god? Who can tell me what the F***CK is going on? Wu Hai shouted loudly. He was sent flying by Tyrannosaurus's claw. At this time, the two Tyrannosauruses rushed toward the three of them. After losing their eggs, the two Tyrannosauruses no longer had any scruples. Lin Jun and Li Yao were too fast. They couldn't catch up, so they directly rushed toward Wu Hai and the other two. Oh no, these two Tyrannosauruses are going crazy. I think Li Yao can't hold on any longer. Chaidev, let's retreat. Are you stupid? Do you even need to ask? Run. Chaidev and Warsaw ran without hesitation. They rushed toward the cave entrance. Wu Hai didn't want to wait for death here. He scrambled up from the ground and ran toward the cave entrance as if his life depended on it. At this moment, his intestines were green with regret. In his opinion, Lin Jun wasn't just hiding his strength, he was hiding it greatly. You can fight a Star Realm expert head-on and beat them until they retreat, but you pretended to be a gold advanced stage psychic and sneaked into my team. Isn't this cheating? What kind of enmity do you have with me, Wu Hai, for you to trick me like this? The Tyrannosauruses were strong, but their bodies were too big, so they weren't agile enough. The three-star realm experts were focused on running for their lives, so the two Tyrannosauruses had a hard time catching up. Just as the three of them were about to rush out of the cave, their vision suddenly blurred. They saw a poodle that was slightly bigger than a pug standing there, opening its mouth at them. Xiao Wan had stayed in the Black Ghost for many days and was almost unable to hold it in. Finally, he was released by Lin Jun. As soon as he came out, he saw the three of them rushing toward him. Quasi-star experts were great nourishment for little Wan. She needed to eat nonstop in order to advance. Although quasi-star experts weren't considered a feast, they were the most delicious desserts. He opened his mouth, and a powerful airflow swept past. The three of them couldn't resist at all. They shrank in the air and directly entered Xiao Wan's mouth. It was a natural devouring ability that could instantly kill anyone below the Star Realm. At this moment, Li Yao couldn't stand being beaten by Lin Jun anymore. He wanted to leave this cave and go to the sky. He couldn't use his strength here. Teleport. Li Yao didn't care whether running away was embarrassing or not. He teleported 200 meters away and left the Tyrannosaurus cave. Then, he teleported again and went to the sky. The surrounding martial artists looked up at the sky. Someone said in horror, "Heavens, it's a Star Realm expert fighting. Everyone, stay away." I know that Star Realm expert. That's Li Yao. Who's the other Star Realm expert? He looks even fiercer than Li Yao. That F***CK. Isn't that Lin Jun? F***CK. It's true. This kid is crazy. He's actually fighting a Star Realm expert. How many times has he fought a Star Realm expert? Lin Jun, come out if you have the guts. Li Yao roared in the sky. From Li Yao's point of view, Lin Jun couldn't keep up with his teleportation speed. However, before he could finish his sentence, there was a vicious wind behind him. Li Yao, I've been waiting for you. Li Yao turned around abruptly and saw a white light flash in front of him. Lin Jun's spear shaft was rounded and fiercely whipped toward him. Hit him. Lin Jun used all his strength and directly whipped Li Yao's abdomen. Chapter 288. With a successful shot, Lin Jun flapped the thunderlight wings behind him. Holding the spear with both hands, he shot straight at Li Yao like an arrow. He knew that Li Yao wouldn't be defeated so easily. This battle wasn't over yet. What happened just now? My eyes aren't playing tricks on me, right? Are you sure that Li Yao was slapped down from the sky by Lin Jun? Your eyes aren't playing tricks on you. It was indeed Lin Jun who slapped Li Yao down. Oh my god. This has completely overturned my impression of martial artists. I saw it a bit more clearly than you guys. Li Yao's Star Realm teleportation actually didn't shake off Lin Jun's teleportation. Lin Jun suddenly attacked from behind. Li Yao was ambushed. Although Lin Jun's ambush succeeded once, I don't think he can win. Li Yao will definitely counterattack. Agreed. Although Lin Jun is a genius, you guys don't know how terrifying a Star Realm martial artist is. The difference will be reflected in a while. There were two groups of martial artists watching in the surroundings. Although they couldn't go online, it didn't prevent them from taking out their phones to record this shocking battle. They all stood far away, holding their phones to record this shocking battle. Li Yao's eyes were spitting fire at this moment. He was actually slapped down from the sky by Lin Jun, and it was in front of many martial artists. He, a Star Realm martial artist, was slapped down by a battle god. This was a great humiliation. Although Li Yao had a top-grade astral armor protecting his body, and this sweep didn't cause any fatal injuries, if he didn't get back at Lin Jun for this, he wouldn't be able to live anymore. With a rumble, Li Yao broke out of the ground and brazenly faced Lin Jun head-on. The overflowing astral energy around him carried a heat wave. It was like a meteor passing through the atmosphere. Li Yao was almost burning up. The two people quickly approached each other. Just as the surrounding martial artists were nervously waiting for a shocking collision, Li Yao moved. He wasn't a brainless person. Lin Jun's momentum was at its peak, and the spear was good for attacking head-on. Furthermore, he was on the high ground. He wouldn't meet Lin Jun head-on. He was only pretending to be strong to prepare for his next move. Lin Jun had just blasted him down. He was going to pay him back. Teleportation. After looking at the spatial coordinates behind Lin Jun and calculating the time, Li Yao teleported. As Lin Jun descended, the corners of his mouth curled up slightly. Interrupted. In the past, it had always been others who interrupted Lin Jun's teleportation. This time, it was Lin Jun's turn to interrupt others. This was because no one below the Star Realm could teleport except for Lin Jun. Everyone above the Star Realm could teleport. After reaching the Star Realm, whether it was flying or teleporting, they relied on astral energy. One could use psychic energy to guide astral energy. Even if one wasn't a psychic energy master, they could still do it because it only required a small amount of psychic energy. Li Yao was a psychic energy master and a late dark gold psychic energy master. Diamond-level psychic energy masters were rare even in the Star Realm. Dark gold psychic energy masters were the majority. This was because his realm was high and he had a high-grade astral weapon protecting him. If one wanted to interrupt his teleportation, they wouldn't be able to do it without diamond-level psychic energy. He never dreamed that Lin Jun would be able to interrupt his teleportation. He only felt a boom in his mind and a sharp pain in his spiritual sea. His whole person was stunned for a moment. The long spear whistled over. Li Yao was really in danger at this moment. Relying on his many years of battle instincts, Li Yao fiercely raised his top-grade astral weapon sword and blocked Lin Jun's spear by a hair's breadth. Lin Jun was already prepared for this. His body had already moved. When the long spear touched the long sword, his leg flew up and once again kicked Li Yao's lower abdomen. Ugh! Li Yao's body that had just rushed up was once again kicked back to the ground by Lin Jun. With a rumble, he actually fell back into the crater his body created. Everyone was dumbfounded by this scene. If Lin Jun had used his powerful teleportation ability to sneak attack Li Yao, that could still be explained as an accident. But what about this time? Li Yao's momentum soared as he rushed out to take revenge. In the end, he was once again kicked back by Lin Jun. They were all martial artists. Everyone knew that this kind of blow was the most damaging to morale. If one's heart was slightly weak, it was even possible to collapse from this blow. Is this true? Lin Jun actually knocked down a Star Realm expert in a head-on battle twice in a row. He's actually so strong? I also find it hard to believe. Li Yao has entered the Star Realm for many years, right? He actually can't beat Lin Jun. Tisich, what did I say before? Lin Jun is known as the #1 under the Star Realm, but not all Star Realm experts can suppress Lin Jun. Old John and Halaf are examples. Now it's Li Yao. You people are all short-sighted. Oomph. Don't boast too early. Liao hasn't lost yet. I believe in the power of a Star Realm expert. He will definitely counterattack. Then let's wait and see. I support Lin Jun. Lin Jun's battle was not over yet. After kicking Liao back, Lin Jun charged down at an unstoppable speed. The spear in his hand was surrounded by lightning, and a storm of spear light enveloped the pit that Liao had smashed out. CSI. Electric arcs jumped on the ground, and tens of thousands of rays of light spun and bloomed. The surrounding ground seemed to have been plowed by a rocket launcher's carpet bombing. The soil rumbled and shook, and the surrounding people were unable to open their eyes due to the power of lightning. Liao had never been in such a sorry state before. The long sword in his hand danced crazily to block Lin Jun's attacks. At this moment, he didn't even dare to teleport. If he was interrupted by Lin Jun again, then under such a dense attack, he would definitely die. His abdomen had been injured twice in a row. Blood flowed out from the corner of his mouth. His hair was disheveled, and his body was covered in mud. His situation was incomparably miserable. Ayaya, Lin Jun, this old man will fight with you to the death. After his arm and thigh were finally shot twice, Liao was about to go crazy. A Star Realm cultivator had been beaten to such a state by the war god. He simply wanted to die together with Lin Jun. The star power in his dantian suddenly swelled, and like a bomb, it stirred up waves of air and surged outwards. All the strength in his body was concentrated on his sword, and he fiercely stabbed it towards Lin Jun. Facing a Star Realm expert like Liao, who wanted to injure both sides if it was in the past, Lin Jun would definitely not fight head-on. At this moment, he already had the absolute advantage, and slowly wearing down his opponent was the right thing to do. However, this time, Lin Jun wanted to give it a try. He wanted to see how his strength compared to a Star Realm expert. Liao could not be considered an expert in the Star Realm. He probably couldn't even reach the edge of the 3 stars rankings. Lin Jun had just advanced, and his aura was like a rainbow. He also saw that many cultivators around him were recording. He wanted to use this battle to establish his might. Strictly speaking, Lin Jun's strength was not stronger than Liao's at this moment. However, Lin Jun's greatest advantage was that he had many tricks up his sleeve. His attacks were unpredictable, and very few people of similar strength could block his attacks. However, this kind of attack was not enough to convince the crowd. He wanted to meet force with force. Seeing Liao's attack, one could tell that it was definitely his strongest attack. Lin Jun teleported into the sky, and the 7-kill spear in his hand trembled. The dark stars revolved, and the power of lightning surged. An energy ball seeped into the spear, and the thunder kill began to brew. Liao felt the pressure on him lessen. Seeing that Lin Jun had teleported into the sky, he thought that his opponent had been intimidated by his powerful attack. His arrogance immediately soared, and he shouted, "Lin Jun, I underestimated you just now. Die with this attack." Sword River. 2 top-grade Astral Tool long swords rose from his side. These 3 swords spun back and forth, converging into a long river overflowing with astral energy. I've locked onto you with my star power. Don't even think about teleporting away. Kill. Rumble. It was as if an underground treasure had appeared. The sword river carried an indestructible aura as it shot towards Lin Jun, who was in the sky. Seeing that Liao had unleashed his ultimate attack, the warriors who supported Liao and believed in the power of the astral realm collectively went into a frenzy. Ultimate attack. Liao has counterattacked. Sword River. He actually used the Sword River. Controlling the sword with star power, an ordinary astral realm warrior would not dare to take this attack head-on. Although Lin Jun is a 9th-grade combat god, he definitely won't be able to withstand it. Nonsense. Of course he won't be able to withstand it. However, I reckon that Lin Jun should have a way to dodge it. However, once he dodges, he won't be able to keep Liao here. Liao might take this opportunity to escape. If he doesn't get rid of Liao, there will be endless trouble in the future. A astral realm warrior has been humiliated like this. Liao might go crazy and kill Lin Jun's family. Lin Jun will have a hard time in the future. It will be impossible for him to cultivate peacefully again. You guys only know how to blindly believe in the power of the astral realm. I still believe in Lin Jun. He will definitely be able to defeat Li Yao. Lin Jun, you could do it. Ignorant. Lin Jun's strength lies in his technique. He's not like me. Hey, Lin Jun. If we compete in strength, he won't be able to face an astral realm warrior head-on. Among these warriors, there were Lin Mi, Lin He, and those who were in the middle. Of course, the current Lin Jun was no longer a brainless He. They were all calmer and more rational. Although Lin Jun was strong, he was still a little lacking when it came to facing an astral realm warrior head-on. After all, there was nothing fancy about this kind of thing. There was no room for trickery. Lin Jun looked at the crazily charging Li Yao. The power of lightning kill had reached the point where he had to vent out. He could feel the vibrations of the 7-kill spear in his hand. The chi in his dantian had also risen to the peak at this moment. He was confident that as long as this attack could defeat Li Yao, then his opponent's confidence would definitely suffer a fatal blow. This battle would also be over. Li Yao, let's settle this in one move. Lightning kill. Go for me. Sword river die. A river of sword chi and a cold light of lightning met in the air. At this moment, at the point where the two energies met, countless spatial cracks began to appear. They opened and closed. The terrifying black space seemed to want to devour everything. The dazzling light of the collision was like a newborn sun. It was so dazzling that people couldn't even open their eyes. Sizzle, sizzle, sizzle. The two of them were in a stalemate in the air. This was a battle without any fancy tricks. Whoever's strength was weaker would lose without a doubt. At first, Li Yao's sword river slightly suppressed Lin Jun. However, the power of the dark star in Lin Jun's body was extremely strong. After the dark star rotated, Lin Jun's strength actually suppressed Li Yao's. Seeing the point where the energy met constantly moving towards him, Li Yao was so shocked that his soul almost left his body. This is impossible. This is absolutely impossible. My absolute strength lost to him. I don't believe it. Boom.